Chapter 1344. Someone inexplicably sat on his body. If it was an ordinary person, Wu Chen would have already smashed him into pieces with a slap. The sudden actions of Genova and Irina really made Dustless confused and abnormally puzzled. "You're our master, it's necessary for us to know each other better," Rena said matter-of-factly as she tried to take off Dustless's pants. "Hold it, all of you stop." Noticing the loosening of his pants, Dustless quickly called for them to stop. Looking at the two women who were like wolves and tigers, he could not help but wonder what kind of crazy place the church was. "Who taught you all this?" Dustless asked impatiently as he rolled up his sleeves, as if he was going to beat up the person who taught Genova and Rena bad things. "Didn't Master and Riaz come here the same way?" Genova asked, confused. "That's because," hearing that, Dustless opened his mouth but found himself speechless. He did not expect Genova to see him being intimate with Riaz. "Riaz and I did it because, the reason is not important, I want to have children with Master," Genova said unreasonably as she pounced on Dustless's body and started tearing off his clothes. Rena was no exception. Her eyes were glowing as she stared at Dustless as if she was looking at a delicacy. Dustless's body made her hungry. "There's something wrong with the way they look at me." Noticing the two women's strange behavior, Dustless frowned slightly. Genova and Rena gave off the feeling that they were brainwashed. Dustless immediately thought of a handsome man, Archangel Michael. In order to win me over, that guy might have fed them some bewitching potion. Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. He was conflicted about Archangel Michael's good intentions. Although this kind of luck was not bad, it came so suddenly that he could not accept it. He had no choice but to comfort the two women. "I have something to do now. When I'm free, we'll discuss the big problem of having children." Genova and Rena looked at Dustless as if they had been electrocuted. "Really?" Biting their lips, the two women asked nervously as if they felt that it was impossible. "Although I've lied to countless people, I have my principles. I've never lied to women," Dustless said without blushing or panting. When it came to telling lies, it was one after another. "Move your faces closer." Wu Chen waved his hand with a gentle smile on his face. Genova and Irina looked at each other. Although they were a little confused, they still came over obediently. Archangel Michael had told them to just follow Dustless's words as if they were the Lord's orders. Mwah. While Genova and Rena were thinking, Dustless attacked decisively. He left his saliva on their faces and used his mouth to sneak an attack on their delicate faces. However, the two women did not look embarrassed. Instead, their faces were filled with joy and excitement. One of Dustless's thoughts was confirmed. "It should be Michael's doing. That's why they're so loyal to me. They really like to poke their nose into other people's business. Are angels also so nosy?" Dustless stood up and patted his clothes. After brushing off the dust, he stretched and said, "Let's go home together." Rena and Genova did not have a place to stay. They had to stand with Dustless, so they could only stay in Zhu Nai's house. Zhu Nai's house was suitable for 2 or 3 people. Once there were more people, it would immediately become crowded. Sazax was thoughtful. In just one night, he had transformed Zhu Nai's house into a magnificent villa. He even said that he would send 500 maids over. Riaz, who knew Dustless's personality well, rejected him on the spot. In the end, she only sent Galifia and a few other servants to take care of Dustless and the rest. This is the privilege of the strong. As long as you're strong enough, you can have anything you want. Under the setting sun, the golden villa looked like it was plated with a layer of gold. It was beautiful. The surroundings were elegant, and the scenery was refreshing. It was like a paradise. Dustless stood in front of the villa. Beside him were Galifia and the other maids. "That bastard Sazax sent his wife here as a servant," Dustless's mouth twitched. While Gilifia was one of the maids, and this was her job, sending his wife to take care of his future brother-in-law was something that Dustless admired. Demons sure are powerful. In the human world, a villa like this would take at least a few years, or even a decade, to complete. Dustless sat down leisurely. Grifia and the other maids immediately crowded around him and skillfully brewed a fragrant afternoon tea for him. "Have a seat, Gilifia. If I'm sitting alone, it'll be too much of a nuisance if all of you stand and look at me." Dustless pointed at an empty seat beside him. However, Gilifia shook her head resolutely and said in a cold, professional tone, "Lord Dustless, please conduct yourself with dignity. It's my working hours now." Cough, cough, cough. Hearing that, Dustless spat out all the tea he was drinking. Looking up at the slender and expressionless Gilifia with interest, Dustless did not expect her to call him Lord. Moreover, Gilifia was the Demon King's wife. What an untactful woman. Shaking his head, Dustless did not want to waste any more words with Gilifia. The world of demons, no, the entire world was like that. There was a saying that could be used to describe it: when a man gets to the top, even his chickens and dogs get to the top. Chapter 1345. Now that Gilifia was calling Dustless Lord, it meant that she acknowledged his strength and status. It was necessary for a strong person to be respected and treated with the highest respect. Although Dustless found it strange that his wife was sent as a maid, perhaps it was normal in the eyes of the locals. Perhaps this was a sign of trust and respect for Dustless. "Gilifia." Dustless suddenly spoke after taking a sip of tea. Gilifia's dark eyebrows were knitted together, and her jade-like face was filled with confusion. "Is there something wrong?" "Lord Dustless." "Of course there's something wrong. Hurry up and get rid of the word Lord," Dustless said with a straight face. Thinking back to what happened in the past, he started to hate this word. Anyone who called him Lord was either a traitor or someone who was plotting against him. "Call me young master, I like it," Dustless said with a smile, but Gilifia didn't understand what he meant. "Understood, young master Wu Qin." Gu Leifei opened her mouth and replied softly. What a cold attitude, no different from a zombie. Shaking his head in boredom, Wu Qin drank up the black tea. Then he rested his head on his arms and closed his eyes to take a nap. Gilifia didn't say anything and stood beside Dustless like a spear, like a female knight temporarily protecting Dustless's safety. Even if she knew it was unnecessary, she still did her job. Huff. Huff. Huff, his even breathing was very peaceful. Gilifia subconsciously turned her head, and saw Dustless's lazy posture with an infatuated smile on his face. He looked very satisfied and content. Perhaps this guy only shows his normal appearance when he's sleeping, Gilifia muttered to herself. Gilifia murmured in her heart. Normally, Dustless gave off a terrifying and evil vibe, but now, he was at peace. Zhu Nai's house, or rather, a newly built mansion. The members of the Supernatural Research Department were all gathered, including the Gonko Berserk Fiend, Ting Yi Cheng, and the cross-dressing young man Dustless saved a few days ago, Gasper. Training in the underworld. Dustless was speechless at Riaz's sudden announcement. Training was too boring and unnecessary for him. Of course, everyone must improve their strength. The Supernatural Research Department is a team, we can't rely on one person. Riaz glanced coquettishly at Dustless and said with a righteous tone. Hearing that, Dustless could only shrug helplessly. He actually agreed with Riaz's idea. His gaze swept across Zhu Nai, Kitten, Aisha, and the others, as well as Genova and Wisteria Irina. They definitely needed to improve their strength. Then let's go to the demonic realm. Dustless thought of Riaz's mother, Venelana's voluptuous body, and his calm mind was instantly shaken. Ever since he gave her a Logia devil fruit, Venelana listened to everything Dustless said and worshipped him like a god. she would never refuse Dustless's orders. Please wait for a moment, I'll go make some preparations. Seeing that Dustless and the rest had agreed, Gilifia began to prepare the items for their journey. On the way to the underworld, Dustless stared blankly at the scenery outside in a luxurious carriage exclusive to the Gimli family. Gilifia stood beside Dustless like a guardian deity. Don't always follow me, Gilifia. I have nothing to do now, so go rest. Dustless waved his hand impatiently. At first, it felt good to be protected by Gilifia, but as time went on, Dustless could not accept it. She even followed Dustless to the point where she peed and peed. This is my responsibility, please don't make things difficult for me. Gilifia opened her mouth and indirectly rejected Dustless. This trip to the underworld is not just for training, right? I believe there are other issues. After a while, Dustless suddenly asked Gilifia. Gilifia frowned and remembered that Dustless was no longer the same as before. She gritted her teeth and said, this time, 3 factions have gathered in the underworld, and they have also invited the main god of the Norse mythology, Odin. At this point, Gilifia paused. Her meaning was self-evident. In order to deal with the threat of the Calamity Cluster, the demons, fallen angels, and angels had set their sights on the other factions. The Norse mythology was one of them. They're just looking for some random people to use as cover. Dustless curled his lips and said disdainfully. At the same time, he vaguely understood Sazax's purpose. He said proudly, apart from training, Sazax also wants me, your brother-in-law, to come and hold the fort, right? Gilifia was silent for a while before nodding. This time, they were indeed using Dustless's power. After all, the main god of the Norse mythology had come this time. If they did not bring out some powerful characters, Sazax would feel embarrassed. Dustless was one of the best choices. Then you have to be careful. Don't fail miserably. Dustless reminded her in a friendly manner. He remembered that when Odin agreed to the alliance, an evil god called Loki came out to mess things up, causing a series of troubles later. Will someone come out to mess things up? Gilifia's gem-like clear eyes glowed with wisdom. She was also a smart person and understood Dustless's meaning after a short thought. Chapter 1346. Dustless nodded seriously. Not only did the evil god Loki come out to mess things up, but he was also inextricably linked to Calamity. Thank you for your kindness, young Master Dustless. I will definitely inform Lord Sazax. Gilifia bowed and thanked him seriously. Forget about the verbal thanks. I need physical comfort. How about this, when we get back to the Gimli family, you can help me take a bath. Dustless smirked and winked at Gilifia. He didn't stop until her face turned red from teasing. In your dreams. Gilifia said rudely. At the same time, she tried to find a trace of disappointment on Dustless's face. No reaction. This guy was just messing with me. Gilifia whispered. Dustless just looked at the scenery outside the train quietly. He didn't show any disappointment or sadness. Clearly, he was just messing with Gilifia. On the contrary, Gilifia felt a sense of loss in her heart. Space, distorted. Dustless was surprised. The world in his eyes changed drastically, as if he had fallen into a space-time tunnel. Dustless felt something unusual. He also vaguely saw the others in the supernatural research lab. Buzz, at this moment, the world in front of Dustless suddenly lit up with a huge white light. A cold aura swept over, and his feet stepped on the ground. What is this place? In an unfamiliar environment, Junai and the others exclaimed. Everyone's line of sight looked at Wu Qin at the same time. He had already become the deputy minister in name and in reality. It's probably a test made by some bored guy. Everyone, relax. There's no need to be nervous. Dustless shrugged and said nonchalantly. Boom. At the same time, the mountain behind them shook violently. Then, it exploded under the powerful force. A crimson monster suddenly appeared. It had an extremely powerful aura and was covered in thick, hideous scales. What a huge lizard! Dustless exclaimed after seeing this huge monster. Roar! To his surprise, the monster Dustless was staring at let out an earth-shattering roar. I'm a dragon. Oh. So it's really a dragon. No wonder I felt it was similar to the white dragon Emperor Wally. Dustless smiled and scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Everyone couldn't help but laugh when they heard that. The Crimson Dragon, on the other hand, was fuming with rage. He sincerely felt that he was being looked down upon by Wu Qin. Especially that contemptuous gaze. How was he looking at the great dragon race? Instead, he was looking at a weak lizard. It felt like its dignity was being trampled on. Boom! A blazing pillar of flames engulfed the dragon's mouth, instantly pulling Dustless into the sea of flames. Dustless' figure disappeared. Brat, this is the consequence of offending and humiliating me. Looking at Dustless, who was burned to ashes, the dragon suddenly appeared and said. Then, its huge eyes turned towards Zhu Nai and the others, revealing a look of devastation. I say. You can't be thinking that you can eliminate me with such a shallow move, right? Light appeared out of thin air and slowly condensed into Dustless's body. Looking at the huge lizard that was full of flaws, Dustless raised his hand and mercilessly kicked it. Light speed kick. A straight flash whizzed out. Although it was aware of the danger, it had already dodged quickly. However, no matter how fast it was not worth mentioning compared to Light. It was inevitable that it would suffer a great loss in the end. Boom! 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 The crimson lizard's head exploded with a blinding flash. The powerful explosion flattened the surrounding ground. The lizard was also blasted back. Its body smashed into the thick mountain before it could stop. The defense of this kind of scale armor is not bad. Dustless nodded secretly. The light speed kick only caused a shock to him, but it did not really hurt the dragon. Although calling them the Dragon Clan is suspicious of them using their connections to intimidate others, they are indeed very capable to be called the strongest clan in the world. Being able to offset most of the power of the light speed kick, it could be seen that the dragon race was not ordinary. It was impossible for an ordinary person to break through those thick scales. What a powerful strength. If it was not for the problem of my body, I would have been hit by his attack. Even so, his pure strength is extraordinary. The crimson dragon's head was still burning with flames, but it was safe and sound. Just as Dustless had guessed, most of the attacks it received were blocked by the scales on the outer layer of its skin. However, the defense of the scales was not omnipotent. Looking closely, the center of the area that was hit by Dustless's attack was deeply dented and turned into scrap metal. The next time it received the same attack, it would be beaten up. You are very strong. Remember my name. I am Demon Dragon Tanny, reincarnated from a demon. The huge dragon eyes focused on Dustless and could not move. Tanny had already forgotten the mission that he was suddenly asked to do. His eyes were like torches as he looked down at Dustless. His battle intent was overflowing. The minister is not here for the time being. Everyone work together and listen to my command. Zhu Nai showed the spirit of a deputy minister. 2 huge wings extended from his back and he flew into the sky. His phoenix eyes looked down at Demon Dragon Tanny fearlessly. What an eyesore, little demon girl. Demon Dragon Tanny said unhappily. Being looked down at by a weak person, he could not vent his anger. He opened his mouth and spat out a thick pillar of fire. However, Dustless instantly appeared in front of the pillar of fire. Chapter 1347. Dustless floated in the sky, quietly blocking the paint on the wall. He was like a majestic mountain, like a natural barrier that was impossible to cross. Trying to hurt my Junai in front of me, little lizard, you've got guts. Dustless said faintly. He almost said my wife wrongly, but he quickly changed his words when he realized that something was wrong. You're just a firefly, and you want to compete with the moon. You're asking for humiliation. Staring at the thick fire pillar that was coming at him, Dustless's eyes changed rapidly, vaguely flickering with black flames. His gaze focused on the incoming fire pillar. Amaterasu. The black netherworld descended from the sky, and without any time to react, it devoured and destroyed Demon Dragon Tanny's fire pillar at lightning speed. It had only been a few seconds from start to finish. Black flames. Demon Dragon Tanny, who was stunned, was shocked, and the way he looked at Dustless also changed. You're really strong, you're qualified to fight with me, puny guy. Demon Dragon Tanny's muscular wings flapped gently, and his huge body ignored the existence of gravity. He walked in the sky like a migratory bird, stopped in the clouds, and looked down at Dustless, who was abnormally tiny on the ground. Puny. You're right, you're really puny. Dustless sneered. His body was like a flood dam, and endless chakra gushed out. A giant that could destroy heaven and earth was instantly formed. He wore a Tengu helmet on his head, and a simple and heavy samurai suit on his body. There were 2 long swords that could shatter the world at his waist, and it made one's scalp tingle. The golden giant stood between heaven and earth. Dustless was instantly as dazzling as the sun, and everyone couldn't move their eyes away from him, staring at him in a daze. His height of a few hundred meters was despairing. Even if one ignored the giant's strength, just his height alone was enough to make one tremble in fear. At first, Demon Dragon Tanny, who was soaring in the sky, looked down at Dustless, but now he was just wandering around the waist of Dustless's complete body, Kensusunu. Gulp. The students of the Paranormal Research Department stared at the towering giant in awe. Due to its ridiculous height, it even blocked out the sun. The sunlight was replaced by Dustless's complete Kensusunu. Golden light sprinkled down, but what shot down was not the warm sunlight, but the light of destruction that could destroy the world. Is he trying to get rid of us as well? This kind of colossus can cause landslides and cracks the earth with just a slight movement. The tremors might even be able to trample us to death. Issei Hyuga said gloomily. Usually, he did not like Wu Qin. He was not envious of Wu Chen's strength, but he was jealous of his harem. Don't worry, Dustless classmate wouldn't do that kind of thing. Shiba Yuto said with a smile. However, he was also frightened by this monster. A height of 100 meters was enough to suppress the sky. Maybe it was just like what Hyoto Issei had said. Maybe Wu Chen had mistaken them for insects and trampled them to death. Let's retreat. We will only be a hindrance if we stay here. Zhu Nai had no choice but to give the order and leave the battlefield to the 2 colossi. Hey, Pocket Dragon, do you still think you're big this time? Are you as big as my complete body, Kensusunu? If you think you're small enough, I can make him bigger. Dustless asked jokingly. Kensusunu's height would be increased again by incorporating other abilities such as immortal arts. Looking down at Demon Dragon Tanny, who was flying around, Dustless had a teasing expression on his face. He hooked his finger at him, and the meaning was self-evident. It's just an empty shell. Demon Dragon Tanny retorted with a red face. His red old face became even redder. He was disgusted by Dustless. Dustless was just a tiny grain of sand a moment ago. Now, he had transformed into an ancient godlike existence, and Demon Dragon Tanny had become a baby in his eyes. Demon Dragon Tanny was gloomy. This thing is just an empty shell. I can kill it in one hit. Demon Dragon Tanny bared his sawtooth-like fangs, and a huge fireball condensed in his mouth. Seriously, I wanted to train them. How did it turn out like this? On a mountain far away, Asashel and Gilifia were beside Laius. This is all because you two hid it from him, Gilifia said indifferently. At the same time, she glanced at Asashel from the corner of her eyes. He probably had other plans. He wanted to use the legendary dragon to test Dustless's strength. Boom boom boom. Thick flames attacked. The huge pillar of fire was only 7 to 8 meters thick. The high density of the flames could even melt diamonds in an instant. Not bad. But, Kansusanu's golden sword was unsheathed from its scabbard. Dustless controlled the Tachi of light with his mind. Still too weak. Boom boom boom. The tip of the Tachi of light flashed with a flash of sword light. Like a hurricane, it instantly destroyed the incoming pillar of fire and crushed it with an unstoppable force, turning it into sparks that filled the sky. But this was just the beginning. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The unstoppable blade continued forward. It was unstoppable. Even the lazy clouds collapsed on their own. Everything that came into contact with it was destroyed. The range of the attack from the front to the back was actually dozens of kilometers away, and there was an endless gap in the depths of the sky. This state, and this unparalleled attack. It's already surpassed me at my peak, Kyuta Issei's divine weapon, Drake, said numbly. Ordinary dragons were like pocket-sized people in front of Kansusanu. Only the Great Red could compare. And the most shocking thing was that from Dustless's tone, this majestic giant seemed to be able to grow bigger. It was not at its peak. Chapter 1348. The power of Kansusanu's perfect form was revealed without a doubt. The 100-meter-tall body looked like the culprit that destroyed the world. The ferocious Tengu armor made people not dare to look at it directly. Being glanced at by those eyes that were bigger than human eyes, they could not help but want to kneel down and submit. Gulp. So powerful, definitely more powerful than Drake. Demon Dragon Tani choked in shock. Looking at the wound that was about to cut the world in half, he was sure that if he was struck, he would be split into several pieces like paper. Let's test him again. With a fierce glint in his eyes, Demon Dragon Tani made a shocking move. He shot into the sky like a rocket and flew above Dustless' perfect form Kansusanu's head. After circling a few times, he decisively sneak attacked perfect form Kansusanu's back. A giant like you shouldn't be good at moving. As long as I attack your back, I think even if you have the power to destroy the world, you won't be able to do anything to me. The huge wings flapped, fanning out a violent hurricane. Demon King Danny fell like a meteor with a loud rumble. He opened his mouth and attacked Dustless's back. It seemed like he was planning to use his mouth full of fangs to crush perfect form Kansusanu. It's a good idea, but it's really childish. Dustless turned his head and glanced at Demon Dragon Tani who was above him. He could see the excitement in his dragon eyes. Perhaps he had fallen into his dream of defeating him. Still not breaking. In the blink of an eye, Demon Dragon Tani approached perfect form Kansusanu's back. He used all his strength to bite perfect form Kansusanu. Crack crack crack. A crisp cracking sound suddenly came. Everyone thought that Dustless' perfect form Kansusanu had collapsed. Looking at the source, the result was shocking. The fangs in Demon Dragon Tani's mouth were all shattered like powder. Not bad. It's still too difficult to tear apart Kansusanu's complete body. Let's stop here. Two thick arms suddenly appeared on the shoulders of the perfect form Kansusanu. While the Demon Dragon Tani was grimacing in pain, the arms grabbed the legendary dragon like catching a rabbit. Ao 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 ao. Feeling that his neck was being grabbed by a giant hand, the demonic dragon Tani struggled with all his might. He shook his body and opened his mouth wide to spray high-density flames onto the complete Kansusanu. However, nothing happened. Cough cough. That, hee hee. Lord Dustless, please forgive me for offending you. Everyone thought that demonic dragon Tanny would fight Dustless until one of them died in battle. Who would have thought that this majestic and domineering dragon would actually apologize with a flattering smile? This made everyone's jaws drop, especially Ito Ichich, who thought to himself, where is this dragon's integrity? You're a legendary dragon, so you have to pay attention to your image. You're a dragon, so don't ruin your whole race. Dustless looked down at the smiling demonic dragon Tanny. His cold face flashed with some warmth, and the perfect form Kansusuno loosened his grip and let him go. Rias, this boring farce should be over now. He turned his head and revealed half of his face. The power of the Tensigan was boundless, as if it could see through the world. Rias and Asashel, who were immersed in the darkness, also appeared in front of him. Cough cough, I'm sorry everyone. This sudden accident was actually a test from my brother. Rias said helplessly and said awkwardly, that dragon's name is Tanny. He was invited by my brother to train you all. Please don't mind. That was really a shock. Ito Ichich collapsed on the ground, and everyone felt that the mountain on their bodies disappeared. I don't mind, but I'm afraid that they can't take it. After all, a dragon is too much for them. Dustless shrugged and said indifferently. He did not organize Rias's training, although he felt that it was very boring. This method of improving strength was also very slow, and in Dustless's view, there was no future. Long time no see, Tanny. The Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet glowed with emerald light, and Drake's hoarse voice entered everyone's ears. Long time no see, de Drake. Demonic Dragon Tanny replied in a nervous tone. At the same time, he peeked at Dustless from the corner of his eyes, afraid that Dustless would change his mind and tear him apart alive. He still could not control his body well. The perfect form Kansusunu was too much of a deterrent. It was the first time he met someone of this level who was so powerful that he could easily kill him. Don't mind it. Dustless glanced at demonic dragon Tanny and said casually. He did not have any ill feelings towards this funny dragon, although he was a little smart. Everyone, let's return to the Gimli family's territory first. Mother and brother have prepared a banquet to welcome you. Consider it an apology for this rash action. Ria smiled elegantly. Her bell-like laughter was very pleasing to the ears. Speaking of which, why did I feel so many powerful auras just now? Are the gods of other mythological systems here? I'm really looking forward to the gods of this world. Dustless muttered to himself and looked at Rias expectantly. I'm not sure about that. Rias shook her head blankly. She had not returned home yet. How is this possible? This place is hundreds of kilometers away from the Gimli family's territory. How did he know the situation there? Did he rely on his own senses? Gulifia's heart was in turmoil, and she could not calm down. Her beautiful eyes were filled with shock as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. Her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Chapter 1349. Due to her excessive shock, Gulifia's chest heaved violently. Her heart was filled with shock. She had only just received news about Sazax, but Dustless had received it at the same time. He had sensed it with his own strength. What kind of monster is this guy? Gulifia bit her lip, her lips trembling slightly. There's going to be a big banquet in a few days, and all of you will be attending. I heard that the younger generation of demons will be there. Of course, there will also be an important guest, an old man from Northern Europe, Asashel interjected. So it's someone from another mythological system, Dustless mumbled to himself. There seem to be many mythological systems in this world. Should I drag that old man called Odin down from his position as the main god and replace him with me? Dustless lowered his head in thought. It seemed that he was hesitating whether to kill Odin or not. Shut up. Don't say things like that. Gulifia scolded with a straight face. She had even forgotten about their relationship as master and servant. Even jokes should stop before going too far. This guy really is lawless. Asashel lamented in his heart. He did not doubt Dustless's strength. If this guy was determined to snatch Odin's position, then no one would be able to stop him. At this moment, Dustless suddenly looked up with a frown. What's wrong? Gulifia asked. She was already on her way to the Jumanli family's magic circle. It's nothing. I just sensed a familiar aura. Don't worry about it. Dustless shook his head as he looked at Kitten thoughtfully. A rare look of fear flashed across her naturally dazed face. Looks like it really is her sister. Dustless mumbled. He had met Black Song of Touching once before and was somewhat familiar with her. He still remembered her scent. All in all, our mission in the underworld this time is to train. I hope you can do your best. Riaz's gaze swept past Junai and the others as she pointed at Asashel. This guy will be the consultant of the Supernatural Research Department from now on. Asashel was like a black hole, instantly attracting everyone's attention, including Dustless. Call me Sir Asashel. Asashel grumbled to Riaz. How rude was it to call his teacher that guy? This guy looks young on the surface, so he's probably an old antique. Moreover, he looks frivolous on the surface, and his attitude is no different from that of a brat. In reality, he's a very serious person. Dustless nodded to himself. To a certain extent, Athashel was indeed suitable to be a consultant for the Supernatural Research Lab. Everyone is done. Please leave with me. Gulifia pointed at the magic formation behind her and gestured elegantly. Dustless's killing spree had already been forgotten. He was just an ordinary person, and she treated him as an equal. Evening, at the dinner of the Jimenez family. Dustless was familiar with Riaz's parents, but when Riaz's mother saw Dustless, the seductive way she winked at him was too much for Dustless to bear. Tsk tisk, it's just a Logia devil fruit, and this woman is already dead set on me. Dustless was filled with disdain. A devil fruit was too easy to bribe. He still had a lot of them in his system. I'll give one to Riaz later. Glancing at Riaz, Dustless made up his mind. He had even chosen the type of devil fruit. The dinner ended happily, and when it was time to rest in the middle of the night, before Dustless took the initiative to find Riaz's mother, Venelana, she impatiently came to find Dustless to make a baby. In the dark room, Venelana's moans that sounded like she was in pain and pleasure could be heard from time to time. It made one want to commit a crime, and one could not help but imagine in a direction that was not suitable for children. I've already prepared everything that needs to be prepared. Venelana smiled and pinched Dustless's face. Following her lead, she looked at the table. A lot of sex toys had already been prepared. She had not seen Dustless for a while, and she wanted to go all out tonight. Since you're here, I won't hold back. Dustless did not have the word restraint in his mind. A person should be free and easy. He was like a hungry wolf, fiercely pouncing on Venelana. And Venelana fully cooperated with Dustless. For his requests, no matter how perverted they were, Venelana did not reject them. She accepted them all and satisfied Dustless's various strange tastes. How crazy does this woman want strength? She's probably willing to sell her soul. Wuchen couldn't help but be speechless. He looked at Venelana, who was sleeping soundly. Then, he walked to the balcony alone in his pajamas and stretched himself lazily. However, he found that a pair of eyes with bad intentions was quietly looking at him. You've got guts. Have you forgotten the lesson I taught you before? Now you dare to come to me. Don't think that I'm always in a good mood. Maybe when I'm not in a good mood, I'll kill you immediately. Dustless said coldly as he focused his gaze on the black shadow sitting on the balcony pillar. Dustless, with his excellent eyesight, saw the person clearly. It was a tall woman, dressed very skimpily, and her entire body was filled with fatal attraction. That's why I chose you to come here after doing that kind of thing just now. How about it? You're in a good mood now, aren't you? Chapter 1350. The devil in front of him was very surprised after hearing such a situation. Then, he could clearly feel the green flames emitting from his body. At that moment, he was in disbelief. He looked at Dustless and tried to guess the identity of this Dustless. However, Wuchen didn't answer the person in front of him. He didn't answer the question and dilemma in his heart. After Dustless dealt with this group of devils, he heard a devil who was watching from the sidelines say, "Don't worry, Dustless is going to be killed soon. This is only the first batch of demons. There will be other demons who will continue to find this place. This time, we can help you deal with a portion of them. But next time, we won't be able to help. We have received a clear order." Dustless nodded. He knew that the demons who gathered in the past few days were only the first to receive the news. Then, they were also the first ones who couldn't hold themselves back and wanted to snatch the credit. The demons who killed him weren't that strong in terms of strength, and the stronger ones were probably still on their way here. When the time came, it would only get more and more troublesome, and there would be more and more crises. When the time came, there might be a steady stream of demons appearing in front of him. But he felt that as long as he was mentally prepared, there wouldn't be too much of a problem, even though it was very likely that there would be too many powerful demons appearing. However, Dustless wasn't afraid at all. He said directly, "Don't worry, I can handle it. Go back and tell your master that when I grow up completely, it's about time for me to fulfill my mission. Tell your master to prepare in advance." Dustless's words were a little arrogant because it would be a bold situation to challenge the deity warden directly after growing up because the strength of the deity warden hadn't been accurately measured yet. Logically speaking, it should be done one at a time. After understanding the strength of the deity warden steadily, it would be more reliable to launch an attack. In this way, there wouldn't be any accidents and it would be more reassuring. However, Dustless's message was that he would challenge them as soon as he matured. Dustless wasn't sure if those first-rank demons would be like what he said, but he really intended to do so. Because when he felt that his strength was about the same, he could boldly challenge the demon god. There was no need for him to gain experience and fight steadily. He wasn't originally from this world, but he accidentally came to this world. Therefore, he had to quickly do what he needed to do and then leave. Dustless reckoned that if he came here with such a body, then what he should do was to get rid of the demon god. After dealing with the demon god, the demon realm might be in chaos. At that time, Zhao Hai's mission would be to destroy the entire demon realm. However, Dustless felt that after getting rid of the demon god, the subsequent matters wouldn't have much to do with him. It was likely that he would have found the space-time tunnel by then and be able to leave. But for now, these matters didn't have much to do with him. After all, he was still in the process of maturing, so he still needed to grow and have a certain foundation. In this way, he would be in a better position to negotiate. Dustless thought about it again. After thinking about all this, he went to rest. He wanted to recover his consumed strength as much as possible and prepare for tomorrow's battle. The next day, after dawn, Dustless looked at the mess in his room and sighed. However, Dustless calculated the time. It was almost time for him to leave the city. After all, there were other exorcists in the city taking turns to take their turns. This way, the peace of this city could be maintained. After that, Dustless packed up and set off with his team. During this process, he told them the truth. He said that he encountered a problem and that he might be in a very serious situation during this period of time. That is, he might be wanted by the demon realm. There would be a lot of demons attacking him along the way. When the others heard this, they were also a little surprised, but they quickly reacted and directly said, "That's right. That's right. That's right. It's okay. No matter what happened, Dustless, we will always support you and help you. We won't let you fall into danger. After all, we have been standing side by side for so long, so our relationship should be quite deep. I don't think there's a problem." After hearing such words, Dustless was naturally very touched and nodded solemnly. He really felt that if it was possible, he should treat them a little better in this last situation. This way, it could be regarded as repaying their care for him. When the last few people were on the road, they were directly intercepted by demons. Dustless specially counted the number of demons at this moment and estimated the level of those demons. Dustless felt that for the exorcists present, it was not a serious matter. Therefore, the few of them quickly cooperated and attacked those devils swiftly and neatly. There were a lot of devils, and it seemed like they had planned this beforehand. They were waiting for everyone to appear here so that they could attack them directly. Under such a situation, 3 demons appeared on Dustless's side. Moreover, these 3 demons seemed to have different strengths. These 3 demons should have a certain degree of tacit understanding and cooperation for a long time. They took turns to attack. When Dustless also launched an attack, they also quickly responded to a certain degree. It could be said that their cooperation was very complete, making Dustless feel a little difficult to attack. Dustless held the Tang saber in his hand, thinking about the flaws of these individuals. He also paid attention to the situation of the people around him. Chapter 1351. The sudden intruder was dressed in revealing clothing. A pair of heavy meatballs were half exposed, provoking people's most primitive desires. The girl's charming eyes were like silk, brimming with charm. "Touching Haegu. I advise you to give up on the unrealistic idea of taking away your sister." Dustless drank the red wine in the goblet in one gulp. He indifferently refused. "If you want to take away Kitten, you must first have the resolve to kill me." Dustless's words made his position clear, causing Touching Haegu to frown. "She is not related to you in any way. Why do you care so much about her?" Touching Haeji's beautiful eyes were overflowing with color. She really did not understand Dustless's scheme. She also did not think that Dustless was scheming about Kitten. This was completely nonsense. Kitten did not have anything that was worthy of Dustless's attention. "She is my fiancé's family." Dustless's eyes were filled with color. His confidence was obviously lacking. In other words, we sisters have no hope of reuniting in this lifetime. Her eyes were covered with a faint layer of water. Touching Haeji's eyes dimmed a lot, and her tone also carried a touch of desolation. Everyone's position is different. Some things cannot be changed. Dustless shrugged and said helplessly. However, his eyes were jumping with a sly look. "Actually, if you sisters want to reunite, it is very simple. It all depends on your will." Dustless's words woke her up. Touching Haegu was like a chick that fell into the water. She quickly grabbed onto Dustless's arm. "Your little hand is so smooth." Touching Haegu was stunned. She did not expect Dustless's hand to be as smooth as silk. His skin was unbelievably delicate. She could not help but rub it a few more times. This female wolf is really too much. Dustless's mouth twitched. It was always him who took advantage of others. When did he suffer a loss? He, a series of light laughter resounded in his ears. Touching Haeji's eyes that could make one commit a crime caused one's nerves to be in a mess. She really is a demon. Dustless secretly nodded his head. Even though his heart was as calm as an ancient well, there were faint ripples in it. Ordinary people might have already lost themselves in the gentleness of Black Song in Pagoda City, leading a drunken life in the countryside. As long as we resolve our relationship as sisters, I will be yours from now on. Her fragrant sandalwood mouth gently opened, and Deshang exhaled a fragrant scent. She, who was already extraordinarily charming, purposely revealed her mature figure, making people's blood boil. They couldn't help but want to agree to her conditions. Taking a glance at Vainilana, who was sleeping soundly, Deshang chuckled and said, "I can do what she did with you too. Actually, it's very simple. You still have the initiative." Dustless was not tempted. He passed the ball to Deshang, indicating for him to settle it himself. He just explained the method. It's actually very simple. As long as you become Riaz's dependent like Kitten, all these problems will be solved. There won't be any confrontational relationship between the two of you due to different factions, and you can be together every day. Dustless chuckled and leaned against the wall peacefully. He looked calm and composed, and he was not afraid of her rejection at all. "You want to poach Wally?" Narrowing her eyes, Deshang suddenly understood. If she jumped ship to Riaz's side, there was indeed no one who could stop her from meeting Kitten. Poach. Aren't these words too unpleasant to hear? I'm guiding you onto the right path. Do you think that I'm not as good as that arrogant lizard kid? When Dustless mentioned himself, he was in high spirits, but when he talked about Wally, his face was full of sneers. He mercilessly retaliated, "His vision is too narrow. Do you think he can defeat the Great Red with his strength? That kid always gives me the feeling that he hasn't even graduated from kindergarten. You're insulting my boss in front of me. Is this really okay?" Deshang asked speechlessly. Dustless really did not treat her as an outsider at all. He completely treated her as one of his own. This is the truth. Dustless reiterated, "Not to mention that lizard kid is my enemy. Every man for himself. After I kill Wally in the future, you'll still have to find another place. It's not hard to find a suitable home now. Of course, if you want to think of it as poaching Wally, that's fine too." Dustless stared at Deshang's little face and said, "Give me time to think about it." Deshang lowered her head and fell into a dilemma. She was tempted by Dustless's suggestion. Listening to Dustless's tone, she smelled a trace of cold murderous intent. If Wally really died in the future, she had to find a suitable home. Dustless in front of her was indeed not bad. He completely defeated White Dragon King Wally in all aspects. "Give me 7 days to think about it." Taking a deep breath, Deshang chose to leave for a while. Her mind was in a mess right now. She could not think steadily and was unable to concentrate. "No problem." Dustless slightly nodded and immediately continued, "Remember, if you stand on Wally's side, you can forget about seeing Kitten in your life. You should know my strength. It's easy to stop the two of you from seeing each other." "You." Hearing this, Deshang's hard-won good impression of Dustless instantly disappeared. This guy relied on his strength to be so despicable and ruthless. He did not have the style of a strong person at all. "Don't stare at me like you want to eat me. You should understand that this is the territory of the Gimli family. I can completely treat you as an enemy and take you as my own. You're still a virgin right now. You have to thank me for my kindness." Dustless proudly revealed an expression that said, "You have to thank me." So shameless. Deshang was defeated and left. She was really afraid that Dustless would force her to stay. Chapter 1352. After witnessing Black Song of Tower City turn into a black wind and disappear, Silver returned to hug Vainilana and fell asleep peacefully. The next morning, the sky was turning bright. Vainilana, who woke up first, took a deep look at Dustless before leaving quietly. As for when Dustless attacked, it was already late in the morning. Time was tight, and the dependents of the Supernatural Research Department were all undergoing intense training. Only Dustless was walking around in boredom. He had nothing to train, and no one could train him. Bored, he strolled around the Gemengli family's territory alone to kill time. It seems to be the same as the human world. There's nothing special about it. On the streets, Dustless strolled around, looking left and right. He realized that it was the same as human society. There were all kinds of supermarkets and peddlers selling vegetables and fruits. The only difference between them and humans was that they were all demons with black wings. Thud, thud, thud. Suddenly, there were messy footsteps in front of him. Dustless raised his head instinctively. Bang, bang, bang. A ferocious force came from the front, and Dustless, who was caught off guard, was sent flying. Ouch! F***ck. Dustless sat on the ground and touched his red forehead. It hurt a little. Just as he was about to teach the bastard who attacked him a lesson, a delicate arm suddenly grabbed him. I'm sorry, are you all right? A pleasant and crisp voice asked. It seemed to be the person who bumped into him. I'm fine. Dustless complained with a dark expression. He was knocked down by someone for no reason due to his carelessness. How could he endure this? Unable to restrain his anger, he raised his head and roared angrily out of humiliation, How dare you, you are. The words at the tip of Wu Chen's tongue stopped abruptly. What entered his sight was a silver-haired girl with an extraordinary appearance. Her watery eyes were moving nimbly, and her face was full of apologies. Silver hair drooped down on Dustless's head. The 3,000 strands of willow hair were filled with an elegant fragrance. It was very pleasant to the smell. The young girl's skin was fair and beautiful, her facial features were as beautiful as the moon, her bright eyes sparkled like stars, and her delicate red lips were like a blooming poppy flower, emitting a magical power. The young girl's face was filled with nervousness as she nervously looked at Dustless. After a while, she let out a sigh of relief. It seems like he's not injured. Otherwise, there would be another expense. It smells really good. Because the two of them were too close, Dustless could still clearly smell the faint fragrance of the girl's body. It lingered in his mouth and nose for a long time. Why does it feel so familiar? Staring at the nervous girl who grabbed him, Dustless felt a sense of familiarity. She was somewhat similar to a certain figure in his mind, so he asked tentatively, LoveLore. The girl was obviously stunned. She looked at Dustless in surprise and asked, How do you know me? It really is her. Dustless's eyes flashed. He did not expect to meet this Valkyrie here. LoveLore is Odin's bodyguard, which indirectly means that the main god called Odin is also here. Since he is so desperate to form an alliance, maybe there is a big problem with their mythological system. That god called Loki seems to be Odin's sworn enemy. Staring at LoveLore's perfect face, Dustless guessed in his heart. Ahem, LoveLore coughed twice, then blinked at Dustless and asked, Young man, have you seen an old man with white hair and a white beard? Old man. Yes. Without even thinking, Wu Che replied without hesitation, Are you talking about the old man who stares at women's buttocks? I saw him just now, on this road. He is very wretched. Big sister, you have to stay away from him. LoveLore's mouth twitched, and her face turned red. She did not doubt Dustless's words, because their main god Odin's personality was so perverted. The gods of the Norse mythological system are going to faint from crying. LoveLore rubbed her temples tiredly and said speechlessly. Odin was also a headache. He was more like a lecherous old man than a main god. First, let me introduce myself. My name is LoveLore, please take care of me in the future. LoveLore's face bloomed with a gentle smile as she extended her hand and said very politely. Dustless nodded slightly and also extended his right arm to shake her hand. He smiled and said, My name is Dustless, the husband of the Gimli family. I am very familiar with this place. Why don't I take you to that wretched old man? Wretched old man. Hearing this, LoveLore smiled with a lot of black lines hanging on her forehead. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Dustless took the initiative to volunteer. Anyway, he was bored now, so it was better to find a beautiful woman to relieve his boredom. It was much better than facing a group of men. Gimli family. What does he have to do with magic Sazex? Hearing this, LoveLore's eyes flashed and she guessed the identity of Dustless. Then she frowned slightly, feeling that the name Dustless was familiar. Sazex's sister Riaz, she is my future wife. Seeing through LoveLore's confusion, Dustless said his identity with a smile. You want to find that wretched old man? I'll take you there. Slightly closing his eyes, Dustless's observation hockey quietly spread, and he concentrated on searching for the traces of Odin. After a while, he opened his deep eyes with a confident look on his face. Apparently, he noticed the existence of Odin. He simply took LoveLore's small hand. The latter's face suddenly turned red, and she gave up after struggling for a while. Her first impression of Dustless was also good, and he did not seem like the kind of person who had a dirty mind. Chapter 1353. The reason why LoveLore did not resist Dustless was not only because of his good influence, but also because of the Gimli family. After all, they were here to form an alliance, so naturally, they would not ruin their relationship with Dustless. Speaking of which, aren't you curious about my identity? Aren't you afraid that You raped me? Dustless slyly rolled his eyes and teased, if that's the case, I'll definitely accept it with pride. You! LoveLore's white face instantly turned red, and her angry look was very cute and playful. Miss LoveLore, you should be the bodyguard of the Norse god Odin, right? The real purpose of coming to the underworld this time is to form an alliance with the fallen angels, the demons, and the angels. Calamity should be a threat to the Norse mythological system, right? Dustless spoke frankly. The existence of Calamity was a threat to the entire world. LoveLore's white chin lightly nodded, and then she could not help but ask curiously, since you know my identity, you still dare to say that? What you said just now might ruin our relationship. Is that a serious crime? After saying that, LoveLore looked at Dustless with her hands on her hips, like a tiger eyeing its prey. Serious crime. What does that have to do with me? Dustless curled his lips to express his confusion, and then said bluntly, destroy it if you want. What does it have to do with me? Even if this world is destroyed by Calamity, it has nothing to do with me. Dustless's expression was normal, and he really felt that this group of people was boring enough. They could live their own lives, and the grand script of the Savior was really not suitable for him. Even if the world is destroyed, you will be finished. LoveLore said seriously, looking at Dustless with a hopeless expression. That's simple. Upon hearing this, Dustless' soul smiled nonchalantly and said, I will get rid of them before they destroy me. Dustless had never thought of becoming enemies with the group of misfortune, but if they didn't know what was good for them, such as White Dragon Emperor Wally, who took the initiative to come to him, Dustless wouldn't be polite. Dustless would generously send his enemies to their deaths if they took the initiative to send them to their deaths. By the way, are you sure you can find Sir Odin? Rose Vies questioned. She felt that Dustless's sloppy behavior was a little strange. Odin hasn't been found yet, but there is a group of people who came to trouble us. Observation hockey expanded, and Dustless found a large number of killers ambushed on both sides of the street. Hearing this, LoveLore frowned slightly and looked at Dustless in confusion. Just as she was about to ask him what happened, countless black shadows suddenly attacked and surrounded the two of them. You sure have a lot of enemies, LoveLore said with a frown, her tone turning cold. I think you are mistaken. This group of people is coming for you. Dustless glanced at LoveLore gently and said softly, as long as you die, I don't think the alliance of several forces will be so smooth, and there is even a possibility that they will part ways. Am I that important? I'm just an insignificant bodyguard. Lothwise was speechless and felt that Dushless was shirking his responsibility. Don't belittle yourself. You've been Odin's bodyguard for so many years, and your status isn't low. If you were killed for no reason, that old man Odin would definitely get angry. And this is the territory of the Gimli family. When the time comes, a battle will be unavoidable. Wuchen calmly analyzed. His analysis was well-grounded, and no one could find a reason to refute it. TSK. But this group of people who came to sneak attack me forgot a major problem. Immediately afterward, Dustless continued to add, it's okay to attack you, but they dare to attack me, they are bold. After saying that, Dustless revealed a terrifying demonic smile. Like a hunter lurking in the wilderness, his eyes shot out an oily green light that could devour people. Strange, why do I feel that this guy is familiar, but I can't remember specifically. Lothwise stomped her feet angrily, but Dustless had already launched a fatal attack. Boom boom boom. A majestic, insubstantial energy ripple erupted from Dustless's body and spread hundreds of meters away in the blink of an eye. Those who came into contact with the energy ripple all frothed at the mouth. And in the sky, a huge rift had been torn open. What is this feeling? Luisiwi's eyes were filled with panic as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. Even though the airwave wasn't deliberately released to target her, it was still oppressive. It was as though she had encountered her natural enemy, and her entire body was trembling slightly. Luisiwi even felt that with just a thought from Dustless, she would be crushed to pieces. You. Who are you? Suppressing the shock in her heart, Lothwise asked. The black-clothed people surrounding them were instantly killed, all of them frothing at the mouth and rolling their eyes. My name is Dustless, I've told you before. Dustless crossed his arms and said casually. Suddenly, he felt an unusual energy fluctuation in the sky. Is the main culprit of the sneak attack here? Quietly staring at the mysterious magic circle in the void, Dustless smelled an unusual energy fluctuation. Dustless. Oh, right, I remember now. The Dustless who killed the fallen angel cadre and almost killed the white dragon Emperor Wally in an instant. Lothwise rubbed her eyes and suddenly realized that she had heard the legend of Dustless's abnormal power. After hearing the rumors of Dustless's heaven-defying strength, Lothwise also became a fan of Dustless. Chapter 1354. Lusvius was extremely excited. Her eyes sparkled with starlight as she looked at Dustless with 2 stars in her eyes. This woman has changed so much. Women are indeed fickle creatures. Dustless felt uncomfortable under this inexplicable gaze. For some reason, he felt as though Lothviather was going to swallow him. He had to change the topic. I think he's the culprit who attacked us just now. Dustless looked at the distant sky. The magic circle there was clearly visible. This magic circle. I don't know much about magic, but I'm sure that the person who attacked us is definitely not ordinary. Dustless explained with great interest. Crack. 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 At the same time, the sky exploded with a crisp sound like a mirror. Countless cracks appeared in the boundless void, crisscrossing like a spider web. Buzz. 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 Majestic magic waves spread out, and the entire sky shook violently. It seemed like it could not hold on any longer. Not bad. After a few rough glances, Dustless estimated the approximate strength of the intruder. Based on the energy waves in this world, it was probably someone on the level of a god. Just not bad. Los Valles, who was beside him, smiled bitterly. Dustless was bold, but this unusual energy wave made her shudder. Her body was about to be crushed. In other words, it was like the absolute suppression of a higher life form over a lower life form. It was full of disdain. Oh. This god is obviously not a good person. He only knows how to bully the weak and fear the strong. The surface of Dustless' body emitted a faint golden luster that enveloped Lascivious. Only then did her rapid breathing stabilize. Looking closely, she was already sweating profusely, and her sweat had soaked her clothes. Due to the water, certain parts of Lascivious' body could be vaguely seen by the sharp-eyed Dustless. Gulp. Dustless swallowed his saliva and secretly gave her a thumbs up. Rosevaye's figure was definitely top-notch. Sorry, I've dragged you down. At the same time, she gazed deeply at the familiar magic array. She could already vaguely guess who it was that had arrived. Do you know that idiot god? He really has no taste. Noticing Lascivious' strange expression, Dustless's unrestrained words resounded throughout the world. Idiot, don't you know who that is? That's a god, a real god. The corner of Lascivious' mouth twitched. She quickly covered Dustless's mouth and pressed him into her arms. At the same time, she shouted at the magic circle in the sky, Lord Loki, this child is not sensible. Please forgive him. Bang, bang, bang. The horizon completely exploded. A rather handsome young man stood there with his hands behind his back. His expression was dark and wild, and in his eyes, everyone was like ants that couldn't even withstand a single blow. This guy, this annoying long-out-yin face is really annoying. Dustless's eyes flashed with anger. He then enjoyed lying in Lascivious' arms, enjoying her intoxicating body fragrance and the two meaty things on his head. Humph. The evil god Loki first snorted coldly and glanced at Dustless with murderous eyes. Then, he smiled. He noticed that there was not the slightest fluctuation on him, so he deliberately treated him as a pawn that wasn't worth mentioning. He's just a piece of trash. I won't bother with him, but, Loki's lips curled into a ferocious smile. He said directly, my pet is hungry. I'll have to trouble you two to fill his stomach. This time, I'll let bygones be bygones. Loki waved his hand and looked magnanimous. However, his words made Lascivious feel as if she had fallen into an ice cave. Lord Loki, what you're doing is against, don't waste your breath. He's determined to kill the two of us. This will cause a rift between the two sides. When that happens, the plan to form an alliance will fail. Dustless interrupted Lascivious. He looked at Loki, who was standing in the void, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. Oh whoa, oh whoa. At the same time, hysterical roars shook the sky. Violent winds and waves came at them. The surrounding buildings were destroyed, and the streets that were filled with people turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. This beast, oh, no, what's the name of this wolf? Dustless asked Lascivious innocently. I say, you're not doing this on purpose, are you? That wolf's name is Fenrir. Lascivious fiercely pinched Dustless's face and asked with a dark expression. Oh whoa. Oh whoa, the silver wolf roared angrily at the sky. The sky seemed to tremble as a huge ripple spread across the entire sky. It was as if even the heavens were afraid of his power. Seeing this, Dustless just smiled and replied coldly with an expressionless face, the world has changed. It's just a mere beast, and it dares to bare its teeth at people. As expected, the world is deteriorating day by day. Let's retreat quickly. The two of us together are no match for it. We must not let Loki's scheme succeed. At this point, Lascivious had also given up on the idea of fighting. Fenrir was already a ferocious demon. If the evil god Loki joined in, the two of them had no chance of winning. Run. Do you think the two of us can outrun these two crazy gods? Dustless stood up and stretched. His eyes were filled with a cold light. Then what do you plan to do? Lascivious, who was at a loss, sighed. Her voice was filled with despair. It's very simple. I'll use my fish to tell that beast whose fist is stronger. Chapter 1355. Dustless's words caused the entire sky to become solemn, including Loki, who was standing in the void with his hands behind his back. He looked at Dustless's confident little face as if he was looking at a ghost. That extremely convincing and arrogant speech was definitely not something he said casually to fool people. Are you crazy? Losvia, who recovered from her shock, was the first to question. At the same time, she used all her strength to pull Dustless away, but it was in vain. The latter's body was fixed like a wedge, and it was difficult to move. Ow, 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 ow. The hungry wolf Fenrir was furious, the hair on its body stood up, and it bared its teeth at Dustless. There was even saliva dripping from the corner of its mouth. Ignorant and arrogant human, go to hell. Luotian said indifferently, and with a wave of her hand, Fenrir jumped up, turned into a huge monster, and pounced down. It opened its big mouth as if it wanted to swallow Dustless and Losvia together. Want to form an alliance? Humph. Did I allow it? Loki sneered, his tone was filled with endless arrogance. Ow, ow, ow. Fenrir, who rushed over, was about to swallow Dustless and Losvia into its mouth. I can't believe I'm going to die so inexplicably, damn it, I still don't have a boyfriend, God is really bad to me. Losvia knelt on the ground in despair, and her pretty face lost its luster. No matter how I die, I can't be swallowed by a hungry wolf, no matter what his identity is. Dustless stood up and stretched, his face outlined a cold arc, when Fenrir's ferocious and smelly huge teeth were about to swallow him. A powerful attack from the dark clouds fell from the sky. Boom, boom, boom. Dustless's right eye changed dramatically, the eyeball was like a flower, mysterious and beautiful. In a hurry, Dustless did not hesitate to release the Tensigen. The repulsive force that was enough to shake the world rose from Dustless's palm into the sky. Boom, 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 boom. Fenrir was fatally injured. His huge body trembled violently, and then, under the shocked gazes of Loki and Losvia, he was sent flying. Bang, bang, bang. The earth-shaking repulsive force sent Fenrir flying several hundred meters away. Gulp. A look of panic appeared on Loki's face, and his eyes were filled with shock. Are you kidding me? You actually sent my baby flying. You even sent him flying so far away. Rocky roared abnormally. Due to excessive shock, his voice was incomparably sharp. It sounded extremely ear-piercing and made people's hair stand on end. Are you alright, Fenrir? Loki's face was dark. After being attacked so seriously, even he felt uncomfortable. Evil god Loki. Do you have time to worry about others? A large number of photons gathered behind Loki, and then a cold voice rushed into his earpiece. When he was about to open the defensive magic circle, it was already too late. A heavy kick came down from the sky. Lightspeed kick. The flashing foot mercilessly hit Loki's head. His mind suddenly trembled, and his worldview seemed to have been kicked out. His mind was in a blur. Boom, boom, boom. Attacked by a powerful force, Loki's body fell to the ground. His body came into close contact with the ground, smashing out a shocking deep pit. His head was covered in blood as he lay in the pit. Am I dreaming? Lord Loki and Fenrir were instantly killed by that guy. Losvia's mind was in a mess, and her pair of majestic jade rabbits were swaying back and forth. The situation changed too quickly. In the blink of an eye, she went from being the prey to the hunter. She had yet to adapt. Damn thing. Damn thing. Damn thing. Loki seemed to have suffered a great humiliation. His face was distorted as he roared angrily. The boundless killing intent doubled. Being kicked by a nobody made him dizzy. His self-esteem was seriously provoked. God was angry. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In response to Loki's indignation, magic circles appeared all over the sky, densely piling up in the sky. As the price for angering me, disappear without leaving a single piece of you behind. The silent magic circles rippled with destructive light. It was not just one or two magic circles, but the magic circles in the sky were blooming with the brutal light of destruction. Disappear. Under Loki's command, the light that was brewing in the magic circles shot out. The originally blue sky was suddenly covered by the light of destruction. Because there were too many of them, the light of destruction condensed together and turned into a light of destruction that covered the sky and smashed down. Boom boom boom. The moment it came into contact with Dustless's body, the void shook violently. Dustless's body also disappeared completely. Just as Loki said before, there was not even a trace of him left. This is the price for offending me, stupid guy, Loki curled his lips and said disdainfully. Waves of golden light floated in the vast sky. It was very warm and sacred. It gathered in one direction and finally compressed into a vague outline of a human. Light? How could such a thing appear? Frowning, Loki stared at the human outline compressed by the light. Combined with the light speed kick that Dustless used just now, he suddenly had a bad idea. Very good, very powerful attack. The ethereal and abrupt voice rang in his ears, mocking Loki without leaving a trace. His old face instantly became very gloomy. If this attack is really powerful, why didn't your damn thing work? But I'm sorry, I'm the flash person who ate the flash fruit. This kind of pure physical attack doesn't work on me. All your attacks are useless against me. You're just asking to be humiliated. Chapter 1356. Loki's face was black. Dustless's words were tantamount to a direct slap in his face, and it was a very loud one. The meaning of these words was obviously, I will stand still and let you hit me, but you can't hit me. Oh whoa! At the same time, Fenrir, who was previously sent flying by the Tensigan, roared again. Dustless's powerful strength not only didn't hurt him, but it also stirred up the anger in Fenrir's heart. It's worthy of being a powerful species that can rival the gods. Dustless nodded secretly. This ugly big dog was very powerful, at least he was very good at fighting. Show me here, your enemy is me, Loki. Rocky roared. Dustless's indifferent expression made him feel like he was being looked down upon. Whoosh! The boundless magic array spread out again, and a large black area, like before, piled up all over the sky, emitting a bright destructive light wave. It's still the same trick. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly, and the power of the Tensigan in his right eye was twisted, and his own form also changed. The emerald light wrapped his whole body, and several green pillars floated behind him. Dustless's temperament also changed greatly, and his eyes were filled with arrogance. Only with the strength of a god can I defeat a god like you. Glancing at Loki faintly, several green pillars behind Dustless moved, and they all liquefied and gathered in the palm of Dustless. The golden light could be vaguely seen, gathering in the palm of Dustless, but it was very weak, as if it would be extinguished at any time by the wind. What's the use of the light of a firefly? Who do you think your enemy is? I am a god, Loki. Loki said proudly, especially when he mentioned the word god, he deliberately emphasized the word. However, Dustless just glanced at him with pity. Loki may be a god, but he is definitely the weakest god that Dustless has ever confronted so far. Buzz! More and more magic arrays spread throughout the void, and looking at Loki's distorted face, it seemed that the whole world was turned into a magic array. It's time to end this. With a cold look in his eyes, Dustless threw out the light in his hand like a sharp sword with all his strength. The weak light expanded thousands of times. golden will reincarnation explosion. The faint golden light turned into a sort of light that could destroy the entire world. Its length exceeded the limit of what the eye could capture, and it attacked the entire sky like a wave. Caw caw caw, the magic circles that came into contact with it all collapsed and were shattered by the absolute power. The withered pieces of the magic circles were no different from the broken pieces of a mirror, reflecting Loki's stunned old face. Ao ao ao. At the same time, Fenrir seized the opportunity. His huge body accelerated without limit. His four limbs gathered explosive power. When he got close to Dushless, he jumped up and pounced towards the sky. For a dog to be able to jump so high, you can be considered to have set a new record. You deserve to be praised. Dustless sneered, and his boiling spiritual pressure turned into a powerful attack to suppress it. Faintly revealing the coat of arms, the arrogant and unruly talent, after chanting the ancient incantation at the fastest speed, the environment around Fenrir immediately changed. He was in the ropeway of the huge coffin. Ao ao ao. Inside the dead silent coffin, Fenrir screamed in panic, but no one paid attention to him. It was as if the whole world had abandoned him. Then, Fenrir found that he was locked on by countless sharp points. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Thousands of invisible blades shot out at the same time, attacking every cell in Fenrir's body. Poochie. 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 Although Fenrir avoided some of the deadly invisible blades, there were too many of them. It was inevitable that he would be injured. Soon, his huge body was dripping with blood, and his skin and flesh were exposed. His breath was also very weak. There were scars all over his body, as if he had been cut by 1,000 blades. His white bones could still be seen. Bang bang bang. After a while, the black coffin collapsed, and the half-dead Fenrir fell to the ground. He was only one step away from death. The scars all over his body made people think about how horrible Fenrir had been treated. Even though he had lost consciousness, Fenrir was still trembling in fear. Ah, damn it. What did you do to my baby, you bastard? I want you to pay with your blood. Loki, who had lost control of his mind, roared. His eyes were about to burst. Gulp. So powerful. Lothwise, who was stunned, was horrified. She did not expect Dushless to be so strong. Loki and Fenrir were like rabbits that he could play with at will. Lord Odin's decision to form an alliance with the demons is too wise. At first, Lothwise still had doubts about the alliance. Now, according to Dustless's strength, it was a good deal. After all, he was the son-in-law of the Gimli family, and the Norse mythology system would definitely rise with him. Do you want to be like him, Loki? Dustless asked faintly. His light tone was weak, and it gave people the feeling that he was holding up the situation. However, no one dared to question him. After all, Fenrir was a lesson. Pft. 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 It was fine if Dustless did not say it. Once he said it, Loki's heart ached. Fenrir was almost sent to hell by Dustless. If he turned a deaf ear to this hatred, he would not be able to survive in the future. He would probably be laughed at when he returned to Northern Europe. I can't let it go like this. I'm a god. How can I lose to such an unknown brat? Loki chose to continue his deathbed struggle. It was fine if he, a god, fell. After all, there was always someone better than him. However, he could not tolerate this person who made him fall. Chapter 1357. Losvea was extremely shocked. She felt as if her eyes were blurred, and her breasts were heaving up and down. If she was not mistaken, Dustless seemed to have used a casual move to kill this infamous wolf. Looking at his half-dead appearance, it was a question whether he could survive in the end. Lord Loki, Please don't be stubborn, or you will also. Her gaze fell on Fenrir's head, and Lothwai's squirming mouth suddenly stopped. If she hurt Loki's self-confidence as a god, it would be counterproductive. However, Loki only glanced at Lothwais and understood what she was trying to say. His expression was gloomy, as if he had eaten 10 pounds of flies, and he roared in a low voice, "Are you trying to say that if I don't know what's good for me, I will end up like Fenrir?" This was naked mockery and slander. You did well. I have never been as angry as I am today. Loki's expression was ferocious, and his protruding eyes were bloodshot, as if they were about to fall out. You think too highly of yourself. Dustless shook his head gently. He had killed countless people who called themselves gods, and Loki could only be regarded as an ordinary existence among them. At this moment, Dustless suddenly realized that there was a slight change in the sky. A large pile of crystal ice fell, and it was strange that ice shards were falling. Did you do it? Dustless asked with a frown. Of course. Evil god Loki said valiantly, and at the same time, he snapped his fingers, and the sky immediately froze. Right, this guy seems to be able to control ice. Dustless suddenly understood, and there was some interest in his words. He then provocatively hooked his finger at Loki and said, "Take out your strongest move, this is your last chance." Damn it. Loki's mouth twitched when he heard this, and the ice shards falling from the sky also became several times larger. They were as large as a villa, and there were so many that it was dazzling. You want to smash me to death? In an instant, he saw through Loki's intention. Dustless stepped on the void and avoided the attack. However, it was useless. Idiot, the one who manipulated them is me, Loki. With a wave of Loki's hand, the ice meteorite that Dustless had dodged changed its trajectory. Wherever Dustless ran, they would chase after him. Poochie. Due to his carelessness, Dustless's clothes were cut open. Ha ha ha, seeing this, Loki looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Although the insignificant attack had no effect on Dustless, Loki himself enjoyed it very much. In the previous battle, he had used all his skills, but he couldn't even touch Dustless's hair. Evil god Loki. I take back my previous underestimation. Let's deal with you a little more seriously. Dustless gave up on running away and turned to face the incoming attack head-on. The golden light turned into a sharp cold light and cut the incoming ice meteor into pieces. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. However, as soon as one was destroyed, another group appeared. You want to fight me? I'm a god. Without a doubt, gods did have the right to look down on mortals. For a loser like Dustless, who had no identity and no background, they were even more lethal. However, if Loki knew that Dustless was a visitor from another world, and that after trampling on 3 worlds in a row, countless gods had died in his hands, he might not think so. Buzz buzz buzz, a large vortex suddenly appeared in the sky surrounded by meteorites. A dark red spiral sword appeared in Dustless's hand. The sword was emitting a dark red demonic light. The moment it appeared, the whole world seemed to have stopped. What is that? Loki's old face darkened. Even he had a bad feeling. This is called the Good Separation Sword, Dustless explained calmly. Then, he raised the spiral sword high up. Legend has it that it can destroy the world and cut space. Now, I'll test it on you, Loki. After saying that, Wuchen waved the Gwyli sword in his hand and slashed out. A huge red sword light whizzed out. Caw caw caw. The floating meteorites seemed to have met their natural enemy. When they came in contact with the huge red light, they all disintegrated. The sky cleared up again, and the warm sunlight shone down again. How is this possible? I spent so much effort on this move. How can it be so weak? The evil god Loki said in a daze. Dustless had crushed his confidence in one move. There's no need to be sad. Putting away the good separation sword, Dustless picked up the corner of his torn clothes and comforted him. Look on the bright side. At least you didn't come out empty-handed. At least your attack tore the corner of my clothes. That's not a bad result. Hearing that, Loki looked like he had eaten Chinese gold thread. He could not speak of his bitterness. All he could do was hold it in and sulk. Caw caw caw. At the same time, the good separation sword emitted an unprecedented sharpness. Just like its name, it cut through space. Wherever it went, it was as terrifying as a natural disaster. Something's not right, Dustless frowned as he stared at the spot where the good separation sword had cut through. A strange look flashed across his face. The mysterious rainbow space clearly did not belong to the universe's abyss. It was fundamentally different and seemed to belong to a special zone. Although Dustless did not know what was good for him, he had an expert at this moment. That's a dimensional space. Are you kidding me? That weapon can really cut through space. Loki's eyes widened. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dislocated. Roar roar roar, at the same time, a loud dragon roar came from that space. It reverberated between heaven and earth, as if it came from ancient times. Could it be? A majestic crimson body suddenly appeared in his mind. Dustless could vaguely guess what kind of person it was. There was only one dragon in the dimensional crevice. The Great Red. Chapter 1358. Although it's just a personal guess, there seems to be no one else in the dimensional crack except for the Great Red. The infinite dragon god Orpheus was driven out by the Great Red a long time ago, and no one can associate it with the red dragon recorded in the nerves. Bastard, could it be that it's... Loki's face also changed greatly, showing a rare look of awe. The Great Red is a powerful existence that even the gods are afraid of. It seems that it's not wrong. Seeing this, Dustless's expression showed a touch of curiosity, and his boundless observation hockey spread. The battle between Dustless and Loki has attracted the attention of many people, including the demon king Syzax and the Nordic god Odin. It shouldn't be dangerous to leave her here. Anyway, Syzax and Odin won't watch Lothvise fall and get hurt. After thinking that Lothvise was not in danger, Dustless turned into a red light and rushed into the dimensional crack. The Great Red is the existence that he is most interested in. Ha, reckless thing. Seeing this, Loki slapped the table and shouted, breaking into the dimensional crack alone is no different from looking for death. In the endless mystery, everything is still here. Where did that big lizard go? Dustless looked around, and his observation hockey spread without limit, and found that the dimensional crack was boundless, beyond the limit of what he could perceive. And the Great Red has long disappeared. Ow 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 ow. The void rippled, and a majestic force spread rapidly, and the vicissitudes of life contained great power. This guy is not simple. It's a dragon. Dustless changed his words, and it was not difficult to see that he had a little more recognition of the Great Red. His observation hockey tightly locked the place where the sound came from, and Dustless's glint flash fruit's ability broke out to the limit. Whiz whiz whiz. Dustless turned into a golden beam of light, unstoppable, and marched toward the fist where the Great Red was located. Deep in the dimensional crack, the Great Red's huge dragon eyes flashed with a ripple, and it suddenly felt a special energy fluctuation. When he tried to sense it carefully, it was as if it had evaporated and did not exist at all. It should be a misconception. This is a dimensional crevice, no one can survive like me. It's also not like Orpheus. Unless she has absolute strength to suppress me, she should understand the consequences of rashly starting a fight with me. As for the others, they should not be so stupid as to make me their enemy. Unlike the simple-minded and ignorant infinite dragon god Orpheus, the Great Red Heart was much smarter. Go back to sleep. No, there are indeed unknown creatures coming, and they're unbelievably fast. Raising its eyes abruptly, a hint of surprise flashed across its calm dragon eyes. The great red's wings flapped lightly, and it immediately whizzed out, rushing in the direction Dustless had come from. This intense feeling and powerful energy fluctuation was definitely not an illusion. Could it be that Orpheus is here? I don't think so. As the great red flew at full speed, it wondered who would be so exaggerated as to completely ignore the uniqueness of the dimensional crevice and fly at full speed. And its target was him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Suddenly, a huge and thick flash of light came from the front, moving at the speed of light. Even so, the great red heart's calm dragon eyes could still see it clearly. Child's play. Seeing this, the great red heart snorted lightly, completely ignoring the existence of the light, and did not put up any defense. Flapping its wings, it directly charged forward without fear. It seemed like he wanted to use the hardness of his body to directly withstand the attack of the light. Bam, bam, bam. The gorgeous golden light did not explode, but it was scattered by the great red's valiant body. Aw, aw, aw. The red dragon recorded in the Bible's Revelation, the great red, is indeed not to be underestimated. How unimaginable is the hardness of this body to be able to completely ignore the attack of the light speed kick. Ripples appeared in the silent sky, and Dustless's voice entered the great red's ears. Buzz, 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 a large number of photons gathered and condensed into a human silhouette, revealing Dustless's original body under the great red's puzzled gaze. Awoo! 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 Staring at Dustless, the great red locked onto Dustless with an unfriendly expression. A strange sound came from its dragon mouth, as if it was asking Dustless why he attacked it and trespassed into its territory. If you can speak human language, then speak human language. Your lizard tribe. Oh, no, I don't understand the bird language of your dragon tribe. Dustless stared at its huge dragon eyes, showing no fear at all. Awoo! Obviously, unlike Dustless, the great red could understand what he was saying, and even understood the meaning behind it. It roared even more angrily, and the deafening sound spread throughout the entire dimensional crevice. Who is this mysterious guy? He's very strong. The dragon squinted its eyes, noticing that Dustless was not affected by its aura. As if nothing had happened, the great red's eyes also showed a special color, alertness. Unreasonable guy, trespassing into someone else's territory, and even insulting me with your words. A clear and melodious voice suddenly came, and Dustless was stunned when he heard it. He looked towards the source, and to his surprise, the great red's body began to mutate. Its huge body shrunk without any limit, and its four limbs and wings were all folded up. Finally, the flower turned into an extraordinary purple girl. This is a female dragon. Chapter 1359. Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. He had once imagined the great red turning into a human. After all, if her nemesis, the infinite dragon god Orpheus could do it, there was no reason why the great red could not. What did you call me? Female dragon. The great red's face in human form wrinkled as anger flashed across her delicate little face. I have a name too. You can call me the Great Red. The Great Red's human form was exceptionally stunning. Her looks were no less than Rias, Junai, and the others. In fact, the Great Red's unapproachable, goddess-like aura was far superior to the other ladies. Her black hair danced without wind, her purple pupils were like gemstones embedded in her eye sockets, her tall nose bridge was exceptionally cute, and her delicate red lips were like blooming flowers. Coupled with her exquisite facial features and that ethereal aura, even the most picky of beauties would have their hearts racing. Your eyes are very annoying. A hint of displeasure flashed across the Great Red's pretty face, and then she mercilessly chased him away. This is my territory. Leave if you don't want to be reduced to ashes. I originally thought that I was shameless and thick-skinned enough, but after hearing your name, I realized that I was simply too weak. You actually added the word great in front of your name. How narcissistic are you? Facing the Great Red's threat, Dustless was not afraid at all. Instead, he taunted her even more. You. Digging your own grave. The Great Red's pretty face was filled with anger. From the speed and attack just now, she could guess that Dustless was not ordinary. However, that did not mean that she was afraid of Dustless. She was not afraid of the infinite dragon god Orpheus, so why would she be afraid of a nobody? She clenched her hand into a ball and smashed it forward without hesitation. Boom! 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 The space where Dustless was standing instantly caved in. Circles of destructive ripples spread out, destroying everything that came into contact with it. Dustless himself was dismembered at the first moment, turning into countless photons. So weak. Seeing this, the Great Red raised an eyebrow. She stared at the photons that suddenly appeared in front of her and threw out another punch. Boom, boom, boom. The scene was exactly the same as before. At the lower limit of the void, circles of destructive waves spread out, as if the entire dimensional crevice was accompanied by wails of agony. However, the light did not react. Although it was scattered by the Great Red's punch, it still gathered in one place. Ah, lie. You're really heartless. Why are you so ruthless? Is once not enough? Do you want to do it again? The photon rippled with a holy radiance, and then a figure floated out from it. So. Unexpectedly, the Great Red ignored Dustless's words and threw another punch. Bang, bang, bang. This time, the force used was even more ferocious. Dustless's body was once again scattered and dismembered. The pieces of his body exploded dozens of meters away. It's useless. I'm the Shining Man. You can kill me with your bare fists. I might have died a few hundred years ago. Dustless's voice came from the void, and then his dismembered body exploded, turning into dense photons. Just like before, they flew in another direction, and it seemed like they were going to heal again. What kind of monster is this guy? Immortal and indestructible. Her crystal eyes were filled with doubts. This was the first time the Great Red had seen such an incredible ability. What's your goal? The Great Red raised his fist and asked in a flat tone. Me? It's actually very simple. After being reunited, Dustless said seriously, I want to be a dragon knight. I just want to capture you and make you my mount. It's that simple. Capture me and make me your mount. The Great Red was obviously angered by these words, and her body trembled. If you want to take advantage of me and ask for some benefits, I'll let it go. But your condition has exceeded the limit of my tolerance. Instead of letting you continue to be arrogant, I think it's better to let you see my strength first before you speak. The Great Red showed her valiant side. She opened her mouth slightly, and a boundless sea of fire erupted. As expected, all dragons have the habit of spitting fire. Witnessing the oncoming fire's shadow, Wuchen couldn't help but frown. He looked around. This exaggerated flame seemed to occupy the entire space of the dimensional crevice. Even the dead world was peeling off layer by layer, as if it was melting. No wonder she's invincible. She has unlimited power, and it's easy for her to squander it. Dustless nodded slightly. Unlimited power could be said to be her greatest advantage. It's useless for you to be afraid now. The Great Red's eyes that were as calm as still water splashed out huge waves, turning into a rolling sea of fire. The eruption of the fire was even more ferocious and violent. Dustless's body was burning, and even the boundless abyss under his feet was distorted by the heat. However, his main body didn't feel any discomfort at all. This guy, seeing this, the Great Red frowned, and secretly cursed Dustless for being troublesome. His ability was heaven-defying. Even if she had the power to destroy the world, her opponent was an existence that was like air, so what was the use? She couldn't hit him at all. Be my mount. I can bring you to a higher world, and step into a higher realm. Dustless had roamed 3 worlds in a row. Including the world before him, he had already roamed 4 worlds. They couldn't compare to Dustless's experience. His vision and mentality were higher. Boy, if someone else told you to be my mount, what would you think? Would you jump into my arms? The Great Red forcefully suppressed her raging fury, and looked at Dustless with hostility. She enunciated every word clearly. Chapter 1360. Dustless was speechless and looked at the Great Red at a loss. He awkwardly found that he had nothing to say. If someone dared to say those kinds of words to him, Wu Qin would definitely beat him up until his parents couldn't recognize him. No matter what, there's no hope for negotiation, so, sorry. Speaking of this, Dustless's eyes shone with a piercing cold light. Since there was no hope for peaceful negotiation, the only way left was to solve it by force. I'm not even afraid of the infinite dragon god Orpheus. Why would I be afraid of you? The Great Red raised her beautiful fist and showed no fear. This little female dragon is the same as Orpheus. They are both ignorant of the world. The only difference is that the Great Red is more scheming than the simple Orpheus. Dustless thought to himself. He didn't intend to hurt the Great Red. Boom! 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 Dustless, who decided to awaken his force to tame the Great Red, naturally burst out his strength without mercy. Endless chakra and Ryatsu gushed out. As the main body of the ten-tailed beast, Dustless's chakra was infinite. Dustless, who also devoured the Spirit King in the Shinigami world, also had infinite Ryatsu. The greatest advantage of the Great Red was her infinite energy. Dustless also had it. Not only that, but he also gathered all kinds of heaven-defying abilities, such as Rinnegan Sharingan, Tensegan, and an immortal body, including elemental transformation, which could make him immune to 99% of physical attacks in the world. In addition, Dustless also had a large number of heaven-defying weapons that could destroy the world, such as the Parietal Sword and Yamamoto's Zanka no Tachi. They were all weapons that could destroy the entire world. Dustless had too many of them, so the Great Red had no advantage in front of him. It was the same in all aspects, so it was destined to be defeated and become Dustless Mount. And Dustless himself was gloriously sublimated into a dragon knight. Wanxiang Heaven's Pole. Dustless's hand was like the hand of heaven, shooting out invisible gravitational waves. Gravity. Great Red murmured and frowned. She didn't know why, but when she looked into those purple eyes, she felt extremely uncomfortable. It was as if she had met Orpheus. No, it was as if she had met an old enemy who was stronger than Orpheus. It made it difficult for her to calm down. Trying to defeat me with such a weak gravitational force. The enemies who hated me were killed by me countless years ago. The Great Red wasn't afraid. Using the inertia of gravity, it arrived in front of Dustless in an instant. Its small white fist was filled with explosive power. Bang! 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 The young fist smashed into Dustless's face, but he didn't turn into a photon like before. Instead, he directly penetrated Dustless's head. It was as if he had turned transparent. It's over. Silver, who had activated God's might, said softly as he pointed at the sky. Countless black shadows instantly descended from the sky. Immortal technique, bright God gate. The Great Red's beautiful eyes widened as she stared blankly at the falling red logs. She didn't expect Dustless to have a trick up his sleeve. She didn't even have the chance to run before she was suppressed by the dense logs. Boom! 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 The red logs that filled the sky fell mercilessly. The great red's waist was suppressed by the red logs, and she couldn't move. How do you feel? It shouldn't hurt, right? I went easy on you. The immortal technique, a bright god gate that I released with my full strength, isn't something that Senja Hashirama can compare to. Dustless squatted down and looked at the angry girl who couldn't escape no matter how hard she struggled. He couldn't help but smile. Be my mount. I won't treat you unfairly. Rubbing the girl's willow hair, Wuchen said with a serious smile. I've already answered you. If you're willing to be someone else's mount, I'll be your mount. The great red snorted and turned her head away, unwilling to look at him. Stubborn problem girl, it seems that if I don't teach you a lesson, let me teach her a lesson for you. I know her weakness. A voice suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Not only was the great red shocked, but even Dustless was stunned. They instinctively looked toward the source of the voice. Orpheus. Dustless and the great red said in surprise at the same time. The great red avoided Orpheus' gaze at the first moment. Other than Dustless, Orpheus was the last person she wanted to see. She's kind enough to let you be her mount. Why are you so untactful? This is a big problem. You need to be punished. Orpheus grabbed Dustless and questioned. Her black eyes looked down at the great red, who was silent with her head lowered. A faint arc flashed across her naturally naive little face. She looked excited as if she had found a fun toy. I'll teach her a lesson for you. I guarantee that she'll be obedient. Orpheus promised passionately. At the same time, she sat on the great red's legs. A carefree smile flashed across her innocent face. This girl. Could it be that? Could it be? Dustless suddenly thought of something. He had a bad premonition. He dashed in front of Orpheus and was about to stop her, but it was too late. You actually chased me out of my hometown. As the main culprit, you're unforgivable. You need to be punished with the most severe punishment. Then, under Dustless's shocked gaze, Orpheus raised her hand and shattered the great red's bright toy. Her two fleshy buttocks were instantly exposed to Dustless's eyes. Then, Orpheus did something even more shocking. She raised her fair hand and swung it down without hesitation. Smack! 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 The crisp sound echoed in the dead silence of the dimensional crevice. Not only was the great red stunned, but so was Dustless. The strongest existence in the legends, the real red dragon god emperor, had her buttocks slapped. Chapter 1361. Dustless was dumbfounded, and the thoughts in his mind were buzzing. He had already figured out how serious and terrifying this matter was. The great red might fly into a rage out of humiliation and start a war with Orpheus. She would not hesitate even if the whole world was destroyed. After all, this was a matter of her dignity. If news of this spread out, she would not be able to face anyone. The dignity that she had accumulated over countless years would be gone. She would become the laughing stock of the whole world. Well, I say, smack 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 smack. The crisp sound was still echoing in Dustless's ears. The surroundings were dead silent. The silence was terrifying. He stared blankly at the infinite dragon god Orpheus, whose face was filled with a vengeful smile. Even if you want to die, you can't do this. The real red dragon god emperor has the DXD, dragon of dragons, the great red. Is her but for anyone to spank. Most importantly, she did not even consider Dustless's existence in front of him. Buzz buzz buzz, suddenly, the entire dimensional crevice was filled with a raging aura. He could vaguely hear the crisp sound of caw caw caw. Following the source of the sound, it was the great red whose face had turned black. Dustless could see that although the Great Red was very innocent in some aspects, she was fundamentally different from the infinite dragon god Orpheus. After being humiliated so greatly, Dustless was sure that this little female dragon was about to go berserk. Orpheus. You. This. Family. Friend, as expected, just as Dustless had guessed, the Great Red turned her head and stared at the infinite dragon god Orpheus, who was sitting on her with a serious expression. She was almost biting out every word. Come over here quickly. Sensing that the Great Red was about to go berserk, Dustless quickly pulled Orpheus over. Before he left, he did not forget to glance at the Great Red's round butt. Don't stop me. I'm teaching her a lesson for you. Orpheus spoke to Dustless in an extremely dissatisfied tone. Teaching her a lesson. You don't have to go so far as to spank her butt. Dustless rubbed his temples in frustration. He was speechless. The infinite dragon god Orpheus spanked the Great Red's butt. This was definitely the most explosive news of the century. Is it wrong? That's what I've seen in the human world. If they don't listen, they'll beat them, infinite dragon god Orpheus said with a confused look. At the same time, she made a fighting posture. So you learned it from an anthropologist. Dustless's mouth twitched when he heard that. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. Orpheus was indeed extremely naive. Ayo, caw caw caw, there was an unusual energy fluctuation and a crisp sound. Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and looked towards the source of the sound. There was an unparalleled energy fluctuation that actually shattered the suppression of the bright god gate. When any living being is enraged, they will explode with even more power than usual. You have truly angered her. The Great Red is really going to reveal her ferocious side. The gigantic crimson dragon spread its wings and soared into the sky. The Great Red unhesitatingly released her true form, once again revealing her true form as a dragon. Her gigantic body blotted out the sky and covered the earth. No matter who it was, they only had one feeling in front of her, insignificant. Help me deal with her. I'll lend you my power and we'll beat her together, Orpheus said in a serious tone. Orpheus said in a serious tone. It seemed that he was not satisfied with the spanking just now and wanted to do it again. Dustless's face darkened. Orpheus obviously wanted to see the world in chaos. As the strongest being in the entire world, the Great Red was spanked by Orpheus, who had once exiled her from the dimensional crevice. This was the greatest humiliation to her. Ayo, there was another hysterical dragon roar. The violent energy fluctuation came head-on. Dustless and Orpheus' hair stood on end from the wind. Looks like there's no way to negotiate. Staring at the Great Red's scarlet eyes, Dustless's pupils turned rapidly. He could guess that she was currently enraged due to Orpheus' provocation. Dustless's body erupted with high-density chakra. A monster that was even more terrifying than the Great Red appeared. The golden evil light illuminated the entire dimensional crevice. The mighty Tengu helmet and the thick and simple armor were filled with vicissitudes of life. Even though the two long swords were not unsheathed, they were already terrifying. The aura that this giant exuded was even purer than the Great Red's. There was only complete despair. That demonic aura that wanted to destroy the entire world made even Orpheus, who did not know much about the world, treat it differently. So strong. Orpheus spoke softly. At this moment, she was standing together with Dustless. They were both in the complete Kansusanu. Hence, she could clearly sense how strong Kansusanu was. Turning her head to look at Dustless, Orpheus blinked and muttered to herself, "No wonder he looked down on my strength. If he had such strength, I could have defeated that evil dragon too. Chakra is something that only I can enjoy. I can't lend it to you." Dustless shook his head when he heard that. He did not have the ability like Orpheus to lend his strength to whoever he wanted. Orpheus nodded and did not say much. Her black eyes flashed with a strange light, as if she had made up her mind to make some kind of decision. She had a serious expression on her face. Ao. At the same time, the Great Red, who did not believe in superstition, spread her wings and flew high. Her wings flapped vigorously, and a storm that could destroy the world instantly erupted from her body. Any creature that was blown by that whistling wind could be dismembered. Such a weak attack is useless against the complete Consusinu. Facing the Great Red's angry attack, Dustless calmly responded. The complete Consusinu calmly pulled out the golden tachi of light. Chapter 1362. The strength or weakness of ninjutsu depends entirely on personal reasons. Dustless, who has experienced several worlds in succession, his complete form Consusinu, not to mention Madara, even Kagaya, the ancestor of chakra, Dustless's current strength is more than 10 times stronger than her. Therefore, any ninjutsu is destined to be different from ordinary people in Dustless's hands, and even has a dimensional upgrade. Whoosh! Complete form Consusinu, under the control of Dustless's will, raised the terrifying long sword, and with a gentle wave, the storm was easily suppressed. Puchi! The front part of the katana of light swept a golden cold light, and it was unstoppable through the wind and waves. The storm was easily defeated, and the dead silent dimensional crack was restored to normal again. Whoosh! Not only that, the golden cold light rushed toward the huge body of the Great Red at an extremely fast speed. What a terrifying edge! Seeing this, the huge dragon eyes of the Great Red suddenly shrank, and a rare flash of fear flashed in her eyes, and immediately flapped her wings and turned away decisively. This pervert is too dangerous. However, Dustless seemed to be able to predict the future, and came in front of the Great Red in advance, and a violent chakra broke out in his body. Whoosh! Several long black rods were shot in 6 different directions, and around Dustless and the Great Red, a dark red transparent enchantment suddenly appeared. So you can't escape, my lovely mount. Dustless smiled, and immediately shouted, 6 red yang formation. In a narrow space, Dustless's complete form Consusinu and the Great Red were facing each other, and he and the Great Red were sealed in a certain range of space. He is strong, and all kinds of strange and powerful moves are stronger. I don't even have an advantage in all aspects. The Great Red's eyes were low, and her momentum was obviously not as broad as Dustless's. Even though the power of both of them is also infinite, Dustless has an overwhelming advantage in strength and power. Release Orpheus, and I'll be your mount. Lowering her posture, the Great Red said to Dustless, which is also a disguised show of weakness. So it's like this, Dustless frowned. Just as he was considering whether to trick Orpheus, he suddenly felt that he was being hugged by someone. The delicate little hand was soft as if it had no bones. It was very tantalizing. I don't want to be your mount, that dragon can be your mount, I can. At the thought of this, the naturally naive Orpheus paused. After thinking for a while, he said, I can be yours, just like you and Giliphiolosophergus. You can touch me as you wish. F***ck, what the F***ck, you peeked at me. Wu Chen, who was the first to react, didn't have a happy expression on his face. Instead, he had a gloomy and sad expression on his face. What a tragedy it was to be peeked at while having sex. Was I too engrossed to notice Orpheus' existence? Dustless's face darkened, and 100,000 F***ck army jumped around in his heart. You! The Great Red was angry, and hot air came out of her huge nostrils. She opened her big mouth and breathed out a deadly wave of fire at the complete form Consusinu's head. Orpheus is too shameless. Again. What kind of deep hatred is there between these two female dragons? Also, Orpheus' appearance. Dustless glanced at Orpheus with a complicated expression, and saw that her eyes were full of light, and her hands were rubbing each other, as if she wanted to experience the feeling of the Great Red's perky butt. She's incurable. Dustless shook his head, and looked at the incoming fire pillar calmly. He raised his right hand calmly, and a destructive ball condensed in front of his thumb. Caw caw caw. With the energy ball in Dustless's hand as the center, the surrounding void twisted rapidly, and a vortex appeared. This energy ball was like the mouth of a deep-sea spring, swallowing the surrounding space. The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red's eyes were attracted to it at the same time. This guy, the Great Red, was extremely depressed, and she could not help but complain in her heart, how many moves does he have that can tear or even shatter space? When he invaded the dimensional crevice just now, it seemed like he tore it apart with brute force. The Great Red felt very aggrieved. She had not done anything that offended the heavens, so why did the heavens send such a great demon to go against her? So powerful. Orpheus blinked her eyes, and she was a little more curious about Dustless's strength, origin, and identity. Wang Su's flash. As Dustless's voice fell, the golden energy ball stood out, and the moment it shot out, the light became countless times bigger. Boom boom boom, the golden light of destruction shattered the flame attack of the Great Red in an almost invincible manner, and the flames were shattered like raindrops by the void flash. Although it's called Wang Su's flash, under my unlimited infusion of Ryatsu, its power has been sublimated, and the essence of the void flash has transformed, and the power of Wang Su's flash is completely different. Dustless muttered to himself in an extremely calm tone. At the same time, he also realized that it was impossible to make the Great Red give up, and he could only temporarily control her by means of Jinjutsu. In this way, this boring farce would come to an end. The Rinnegan Sharingan stared at the eyes of the Great Red, emitting strange ripples, and the 9 Tomo also trembled, and the consciousness of the Great Red was quickly swallowed. Chapter 1363. Dustless's Rinnegan was completely different from others. Not only did it have powerful attack power and sealing technique, but it also had extremely dangerous illusion technique. Not knowing the ability of Rinnegan, the Great Red stared blankly at Dustless. Soon, she fell into the nightmare created by Rinnegan. Roar! A deafening snoring sound came from the sky. Looking carefully, the Great Red actually fell asleep. Phew! It's finally over. After removing Kansusanu's huge body, Dustless sighed in relief. She really fell asleep. Orpheus stared at the Great Red's huge body and looked left and right. After seeing that she really fell asleep, she landed on her body without any warning. Could it be, suddenly remembering Orpheus's strange behavior, Dustless's eyes twitched. He vaguely guessed what she was going to do and looked at Orpheus with a pained expression. Clap 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 clap, sure enough, after a while, a familiar sound came. Orpheus sat on the enormous body of the Great Red, waving her slim arms and beating the scales on the Great Red's body rhythmically. This guy, seeing such a scene, Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had a clearer understanding of Orpheus's weirdness. In the dimensional crevice, there was no passage of time. Everything was still. After an unknown amount of time, the Great Red opened her eyes. Strange. Why did I become a human again? The Great Red muttered in confusion. Dustless sat in front of her with his back facing the Great Red. Just as he was about to ask something, she suddenly felt itchy on her butt. It was slightly swollen and slightly painful. Clap 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 clap. The infinite dragon god Orpheus slapped the Great Red's butt with all her might. While slapping the corner of her mouth, she muttered, "In the human world, when a child makes a mistake, their parents will hit him like this. You evil dragon are so bad, I will definitely teach you a lesson." Seeing this, the Great Red almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He hurriedly turned around and kicked the infinite dragon god, Orpheus, away. I tried to stop her, but it was useless. Dustless shrugged, as if it had nothing to do with him, and pushed all the responsibility to Orpheus. It was not hard to see that the swollen buttocks of the Great One were all thanks to Orpheus. In Orpheus' words, who asked her to expel me from my hometown? This is my return. You too. Hearing this, Great Red flew into a rage. She clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to beat up Dustless, but she couldn't muster up the courage to do so. Dustless used his illusion again, and then Orpheus, the Great Red, was incomparably gloomy. He secretly cursed his bad luck in his previous life to have met two such strange jinxes in his next life. In any case, there's no need to be enemies with me. You have already become my spiritual beast. Dustless's shocking words caused Great Red's heart to turn cold. In your dreams. Great Red's beautiful face was filled with anger, and her watery eyes were filled with refusal and resistance. Hearing this, Dustless just smiled casually, and then said mercilessly, when you were asleep, I had already used Reincarnation Sharingan to control you and complete the spiritual beast's title. It's useless to resist. Hearing this, Great Red's heart became even more dead and was filled with despair. You shouldn't be a person of this world. Such a strong existence like you is simply what? Simply violating the rules of this world. Dustless interrupted Great Red and asked. As you said, I am indeed not a native of this world. Dustless was about to emit light, and his deep eyes seemed to be able to see through space. The universe is vast and boundless. This world is just an insignificant lonely boat among the countless worlds. To be honest, I have already experienced 3 worlds in a row. But unfortunately, perhaps because of my bad temper, those 3 worlds were destroyed by me in the end. I hope this world is not like that. Dustless quickly added. It's time to go back. Standing up and stretching his body, Dustless's eyes that were still went berserk once again. Divine might. Caw caw caw. The void was torn apart by an unknown force, and a huge black hole appeared. Both Orpheus and Great Red could feel that the other side of the black hole was the underworld. Such a strange move. Where did he get so many of them? Great Red was speechless, and her tone was sour. There was even a hint of envy in her gem-like eyes. As a member of the dragon race, she seemed to only have those few moves. Compared to Wu Qin, she was extremely poor and pedantic. Feel free to go wherever you want. Anyway, when I summon you, you can just come out. Dustless said faintly. Just as he was about to step into the black hole, a spirit blocked his way. There shouldn't be any grudges between us, right, infinite dragon god Orpheus? Dustless frowned as he looked at the naturally naive girl in front of him, puzzled. Of course there is. I have decided to follow you from now on. Meeting Dustless's gaze, Orpheus said seriously. Her tone and expression were very calm, as if she was narrating something insignificant, completely ignoring Dustless's feelings. What's the reason? Dustless asked. She had already turned Great Red into a psychic beast, and the dimensional crevice was hers from now on. Orpheus had also obtained the piece that she had always wanted. Her. Great Red suddenly curled her lips, as if she had seen through Orpheus' thoughts, and revealed Orpheus' secret. Chapter 1364. Dustless suddenly felt that these 2 little female dragons were extremely interesting. He blinked his eyes and asked, according to my personal guess, the relationship between the 2 of you seems to be unusual. Is there some kind of connection? The infinite dragon god Orpheus and the Great Red lowered their heads at the same time. In fact, when Orpheus was chased out of the dimensional crevice, Dustless was extremely curious. This was because the strength of the 2 dragon gods was almost the same. If they fought, it might cause the world to collapse. It was impossible for the Great Red to chase Orpheus away with brute force unless she risked the danger of the entire world being destroyed. Of course, there was another possibility. Perhaps Orpheus had deliberately left the dimensional crevice. According to Dustless's guess, although the possibility of this was extremely small, it was the most logical. I've been in the dimensional crevice for too long. I just wanted to see the outside world, but you evil dragon took advantage of the situation to rob my hometown and your hometown. Nonsense. You and I were born in the same period. You don't have the right to monopolize the dimensional crevice. The name of the infinite dragon god Orpheus is also not written in the dimensional crevice. You're talking nonsense. Bullsh*t. Orpheus, who had transformed into a human, and the Great Red were spitting at each other. They were fighting until their faces were red. Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the two dragon gods who had entered a catfight mode. He couldn't help but feel that the affairs of the world were unpredictable. Perhaps everyone in the world thought that these two were existences that would fight to the death. However, the scene in front of him had probably refreshed the world's understanding. Do as you wish. The two of them probably wouldn't stop anytime soon. Dustless shook his head and decisively turned to leave. The matter between these two little female dragons was not something he could participate in. The air in the underworld smells better. Just say that it's filled with the smell of decay and death. Looking down at the blue sky under his feet, the densely packed cities were especially small, like grains of sand. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dustless's body swept out thousands of gorgeous rays of light, and then he disappeared. He charged straight toward the territory of the Gimli family. At this moment, the other side was in the midst of public discussion. You're saying that the guy called Dustless crippled Loki and his pet Fenrir? Did I hear wrongly? Let me repeat it again. A guy called Dustless crippled Loki and his pet, Fenrir. The white-haired old man's eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. Yes, Sir Odin. The mature young lady nodded and answered seriously. When she answered, she also felt that everything she saw before was just an illusion. I saw it with my own eyes. I saw Dustless defeat Lord Loki. Lord Loki and Fenrir were both half dead, especially Fenrir. It's doubtful if she can survive. Losvia pursed her lips and answered seriously. What kind of monster is it? It's already a miracle for a person to be able to survive when facing Luo Shin and the god-killing wolf Fenrir alone. He was almost killed by Loki and Fenrir. What kind of monster is that? From what you said, he can use skills with light. Could he be Jehovah? The old muddle-headed Odin said in disbelief. The crowd stared with their eyes and mouths agape. Their breathing grew heavier. The head of the Supernatural Research Lab, Laius Gemengli, Junai Himejima, Kitten, Genova, and the others were all there. There was also Gilifia, Laius' mother, Vainilana, Demon King Sazax, and two other Demon Kings. If it's that guy. It sounds exaggerated and unbelievable, but one thing is for sure. He's the only one who can do such a thing. The fallen angel governor, Asashel, who had witnessed Dustless's strength, said. He frowned and recalled, Dustless beat the white dragon emperor who was in Tyrannosaurus mode as easily as bullying a child. I personally think it's possible that he could beat Loki and Fenrir so badly. I think so too. He's very strong. Vainilana, who was Laius' mother, said with a smile in her eyes, after all, he's Laius' fiancé. It's necessary for him to be able to beat a god. Similarly, this is also the basic requirement for being my lover. Vainilana added in her heart. However, some were happy, and some were sad. Some were happy, and some were depressed. That pervert can't really be the main god of the angels, right? The demon king Seraphil, who was currently the Leviathan, said gloomily. She was once forcefully pushed down by Dustless and almost couldn't get up for a few days. This matter had become a knot in her heart. In her heart, she had already labeled Dustless as a must-kill. Now that he was so strong, how could Seraphil endure it? How could she take revenge in the future? Could it be that she could just let it go and watch Dustless show off in front of her? Absolutely not. All in all, let's talk about Dustless later. For now, let's sign a peace agreement, Lord Odin. The sharp-eyed topic showed signs of derailing. Syzax had to talk about business again. Compared to the alliance of several parties, this was a trivial matter. That's true. Odin nodded. Just as he was about to agree, an untimely sharp voice came. Old thief Odin, I didn't agree. Who allowed you to sign such a boring agreement? I firmly refuse to sign such an agreement. A blue light appeared in the space, and a huge magic circle appeared. A man with a cold and gloomy expression stepped out of it. Loki. Everyone frowned, but when they saw Loki, who was covered in injuries, they laughed. Chapter 1365. It was no wonder that everyone was laughing. Loki was covered in wounds, his face was swollen, and there were even bandages on some parts of his body. This kind of situation was normal for a human, but if the other party was a god. It was too funny. At the same time, everyone understood that Losvias was telling the truth. Loki's injuries were proof that the culprit was Dustless. Humph, how dare you guys laugh at me, Loki was furious. That hearty laughter was like a slap to his old face. It stung. Idiot, if you go back now, I'll let bygones be bygones, Odin said in a powerful tone. As the main god of Norse mythology, Odin had the right to be arrogant. Although he was old, his strength was undeniable. Let bygones be bygones. How arrogant. I'll hold you accountable. Loki sneered. He was not afraid of Odin at all. Seems like it's more lively than I thought. A frivolous tone was heard. Then, in the center of the hall, a large amount of light came from all directions. Dustless's body was faintly discernible. D*MNU. Why are you still alive? Loki's expression changed drastically. At the same time, he instinctively took a step back. He thought Dustless was dead. That's why he came to cause trouble. I didn't expect this unkillable cockroach to still be so popular. Could it be that the most powerful existence in the legends, the Great Red, is no match for this D*MN bastard? When he thought of this, Loki's heart trembled. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Dense magic bullets shot out from Loki's hand. His target was the golden light. Boom, boom, boom. Loud explosions followed. Dustless, who had been compressed into his human form, was inevitably blown to pieces. You bastard! The girls from the Paranormal Research Department glared at him. Although they were sure that the godlike Dustless would not be killed, Loki was despicable. It was despicable for him to want to kill Dustless before he could transform. It was against the will of a god. However, Loki himself didn't care. The dignity of a god was no longer important to him. As long as he could get rid of this eyesore who had a deep hatred for him, dignity wasn't important. Everyone attacked together. Riaz looked around with her beautiful eyes. The members of the Paranormal Research Department were showing off their prowess. They had gone through a lot of training during this period, and their strength had increased greatly. Lei Guang. Whoosh. 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 The dazzling magic attacks all landed on Loki's body, but he was completely fine. In the face of the endless attacks, he did not dodge or evade. He only relied on the hardness of his body to withstand the insignificant attacks with a calm expression. I'm a god. You bunch of small fries want to hurt me. Do you think this is a comedy movie? How vulgar. Loki sneered disdainfully. His face was full of arrogance, and he was extremely arrogant. They can't, but what about me? Dustless's cold voice resounded behind Loki. He suddenly turned around and attacked Loki with a cold and merciless kick. Loki's body was immediately sent flying. The villa used for the gathering was even penetrated. You're just a loser, and you still dare to be so arrogant. Even if you want to cause trouble, you should know who you are. Dustless stared at Loki, who was kicked away, and suddenly suspected that this guy's head was broken. Last time, he let him go because he was chasing the Great Red. He thought that this guy could recognize his strength, but he didn't expect that this guy dared to take the initiative to provoke him. I'm thinking. What would happen if a god was killed? Dustless asked lightly. His words made everyone's expression change drastically. Even Sazax, who had been silent all this time, frowned slightly. Gulp, that's amazing. I didn't misjudge him. The offspring with him must be much better than Sazax and Ria's. Venurana's eyes were filled with lust, and her whole body exuded a seductive aura. Dustless showed his prowess and sent Loki, who was known as a god, flying with a kick. It was unforgettable. It was as if by following the man in front of her, the whole world was in her hands. At the same time, Seraph's heart was broken into pieces. She knew that it was impossible for her to take revenge. Loki was kicked to the point where he couldn't even tell his direction. If it were her, she wouldn't be much stronger. You be asterisk starred. What happened to my mouth? Loki's old face twitched violently. He found that he couldn't even speak clearly. It was as if someone had stuffed something in his throat. It was extremely difficult to call out Dustless's name. Idiot, haven't you realized yet? Your face is crooked from my kick. Ignoring Loki's hateful eyes that wanted to eat him alive, Dustless explained while mocking him. Don't worry, at most, you can't speak clearly. You can still eat. You won't starve to death. Pfft. Hearing that, Rias and the others couldn't help but laugh out loud. Their seductive looks hooked the worm in Dustless's stomach. His eyes gleamed as he stared at the group of beautiful women. I'm engaged to Rias. I've already gotten her old lover, Venurana, and her sister-in-law, Gilifia. It would be a waste to leave her, the first wife, alone. With a decision in his mind, Dustless planned to take away Rias's most precious thing after he dealt with Loki. They were already engaged anyway, and it wouldn't matter if their relationship took another step forward. Chapter 1366. Dustless looked at Rias with a restless mind. Even though he had seen and even touched every part of her body, in the end, the last layer of membrane was still not torn off. This time, I must completely tear apart the barrier between you and me. Dustless smiled foolishly, as if he had fallen into endless reverie. Full of loopholes. Loki saw that Dustless was in a daze and immediately realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He gathered all the magic in his body and turned it into a large number of magic circles. Vroom vroom vroom, every magic circle was shining and pulsing, and the destructive light was terrifying. The power of a single magic circle could easily destroy a green mountain, let alone hundreds and thousands of them. It was not difficult to see Loki's hatred for Dustless. How is this guy a god? He's despicable and shameless, and now he's scheming. Rias's people were furious. Dustless was floating in the sky, and no one knew what he was thinking. There was a smile on his face, and sometimes there was a wretched smile. Obviously, he had fallen into endless fantasy. Die! You are sent by the heavens to go against this god. Disappear with my hatred for you. As soon as he said that, the thousands of magic circles shot out a bright light at the same time. However, Dustless still did not react. Dustless, listen to me, Riaz, who was panicking, quickly shouted at Dustless. Her face was red, and she finally gritted her teeth. If you can defeat Loki this time, you can do whatever you want to me, and I won't resist. Gulp. This was the sound of nature, the words that Dustless had always wanted to hear, and finally pulled his thoughts out of his fantasy. He looked at the incoming flashes and curled his lips in disdain. I've said it before. Loki, you're just a child in my eyes. As soon as he said that, a large amount of chakra energy waves erupted from Dustless's body. Vroom vroom vroom. The silent earth suddenly trembled, and a blazing aura seeped out. This seems to be the temperature of magma, everyone retreat quickly. Aware of the danger, Syzax ordered loudly. At the same time, he did not forget to retreat. Uchiha Flame Formation. A transparent barrier rose from the ground, sealing off the entire sky. The flame barrier trembled, emitting a huge destructive power. Anything that got close to it was destroyed, and even steel was melted into water. The scene was extremely horrifying. The flame barrier, which was several dozen meters tall, radiated a lethal temperature. Even from several hundred meters away, one could feel the scorching heat of the flame cage. If one was careless, they would be caught in the crossfire. Hua hua hua. As for those flashing magic bombs, they were even more miserable. Not to mention Dustless, who was behind the enchantment was evaporated before it could even touch it. Not only that, but Loki himself was also heavily injured. His whole body was black, and his pure white clothes were burned full of stains. His image was ruined, and what was even more hilarious was that Loki's hairstyle, which was considered good in front of him, was burned by Dustless until not a single hair was left. Loki's gorgeous head became bald. Yo yo yo. Why did Lord Loki become like this? It shouldn't be. Could it be? Our respected goddess Sama is cosplaying. I didn't expect you to have such interests, and such a strong taste. You actually chose to dress up as a beggar. Seeing Loki's embarrassed appearance, Dustless joked with a smile. It's one thing for you to be shockingly strong, but even your mouth is so vicious. You're the only one who gets all the good things. God is really unfair. Loki said in a gloomy and depressed voice. He looked at his whole body, and it was indeed no different from a strange appearance. His trousers were burned, and his long black legs were exposed. He was also burned bald, and his face was dark. He was indeed a serious beggar. Seeing this, Loki was furious. He was a dignified god, but he was beaten by Dustless into a beggar. His broken heart was broken even more thoroughly. All turned into powder. Hee hee. Although I am no match for you, but... Ha ha ha, they are definitely no match for me. Loki laughed arrogantly. At this point, he had already given up on the idea of defeating Dustless, because it was completely overconfident. There was no other way but to humiliate himself. So, Loki set his sights on Riaz and the others. If he couldn't defeat the big one, he could bully the small one. This bastard has disgraced the Norse gods. Seeing this, Odin was so angry that his old face turned green. He had never seen a god as despicable as Loki, and he understood Loki's glowing eyes the best. He can't defeat Dustless, so he chose to attack his fiancée. What a despicable method. Asashel and the others frowned. They were extremely disgusted by the evil god Loki. This bastard was too shameless. Damn it, Dustless naturally noticed Loki's abnormality at the first moment, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Hee hee hee. Your opponent is not me, now it's a different person. Loki smiled mysteriously, and then he snapped his fingers very calmly. The bright sky suddenly turned dark, and a big silver wolf descended from the sky, opening his stinky mouth to bite Dustless. My opponent is Riaz Jimenez and the others, and your opponent is Fenrir. No, it should be Fenrir who is holding you back. He is far from being your opponent, but the short time Fenrir is holding you back is enough for me to kill Riaz Jimenez and her family. Loki thought confidently, but in the next second, the sky inexplicably began to rain blood. Poochie. Fenrir, who Loki trusted and used to stall for time, was instantly killed by Dustless. Chapter 1367. Blood was raining down from the sky, and the stench spread to every corner of the sky. Everyone looked at Fenrir, who was lying on the ground in disbelief. Fenrir, who had once swallowed a deity, was now killed by an exaggerated sword strike. Just how abnormal was Dustless' original body? This was not tofu that could be cut open in an instant. This was a god. A hungry wolf that had once swallowed a god. And it was such a deity that had devoured a deity, but now he was actually killed by Dustless in such an easy manner. That casual and simple appearance gave people the illusion that he was violently beating up a child. It was simply unbelievable. Unforgivable. Loki was dumbfounded. Fenrir's body that had been split into two did not scare him away. Instead, it made Loki's heart ache. He clenched his teeth so hard that they were broken. You have to be buried with Fenrir, you damn bastard. Loki roared like a psychopath. His words revealed a hysterical brutality. This ferocious beast was completely enraged by Dustless's cruel means. His partner that he had spent all his time with was split into two. Loki's heart had already gone berserk. His hatred for Dustless and the others had also climbed to an unprecedented level. You still don't want to give up? Facing Loki's ferocious gaze, Dustless just pursed his lips and smiled. Go to hell. Loki roared crazily, his tone was a little sharp. Boom. 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 His shrill voice echoed in the sky. Whoosh. Whoosh. However, this guy said that he would tear Dustless into pieces and burn his bones to ashes, but his actions were despicable beyond imagination. He knew that he was no match for Dustless, so he turned into a ray of light and rushed towards Riaz and the others. His speed in the blink of an eye was not any slower than the speed of light. Idiot, you are digging your own grave. Seeing this, the main god of Norse mythology, Odin, cursed in his heart. Capture Riaz to threaten Dustless. Frankly speaking, this was a good plan, and it was the only way out for Loki at the moment. However, he had neglected the most important thing. Doing so would truly enrage Dustless, a super mythological beast that could destroy the world. Ggggg ha 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 ha. A series of strange laughter came out of Loki's mouth. Loki was so excited that he seemed to be dancing. Fenrir's hatred is because you women first. First what? Poochie. The cold voice stopped Loki. His ferocious smile froze on his face, and he suddenly felt a stabbing pain in his arm. Loki was stunned and looked over subconsciously. Blood continuously spurted out from his left arm. This is only the beginning. I originally wanted to give you a dignified death, but you didn't cherish it, so who can you blame? Dustless asked back. At the same time, he took out a dark red flaming katana. The blade was wrapped in a large amount of high-density flames, making it impossible for people to rely on it. Bankai Remnant Flame Tachi. Following Dustless's command, the blade of the Tachi changed once again, and all the flames disappeared. However, the tip of the blade only emitted a wisp of steam, and the raging flames seemed to have been extinguished. What's going on? Asashel, Sazax, and even Odin, the main god of the Norse mythology system, exclaimed with solemn expressions. What's wrong? The naturally naive kitten was confused. Not only her, but Rias and the others were also confused. Why are they all so serious? Is there anything wrong? Hito Ichijo was also confused. He just felt that the weather had become hotter and was a little uncomfortable. As time went by, he felt more and more uncomfortable. That guy used some kind of powerful attack. The water in the entire world is mysteriously evaporating for some reason. Maybe it has something to do with that weapon. That bastard called Loki has really angered him. He's going to bring bad luck to the entire world. The Red Dragon Emperor's gauntlet emitted an emerald glow, and Drake's voice followed. This guy is going to destroy the world. Hearing this, Bingting took a deep breath and asked in disbelief, so you're saying that if Dustless and Loki fight, this world will collapse sooner or later? Should we leave the underworld in advance? Or else we'll be dragged into it. If there was danger in the underworld, they could just run away or stay away from the center of the battle. You idiot, you can feel it too. The water in your body is rapidly evaporating. Don't move. That scary man only needs to stand still, and the world will be destroyed. The water in our bodies will also rapidly evaporate, and will become dry corpses. Drake said unhappily. Hito Ichijo was too naive and ignorant. At the same time, the environment of the underworld was also changing rapidly. Everyone was shocked to find that the blood flowing in their bodies was disappearing at an accelerated rate. The moist ground was slowly drying up, and shocking cracks were appearing. The flowers and trees were also withering at an accelerated rate. The entire world was shrouded in a shadow. Some people even found out that they could slowly die before they could even figure out their enemy. Wu Chen's original body stood quietly in the void, holding the Zanka no Tachi in his hand. He didn't need to make any extra movements. Sooner or later, all the water in the world would evaporate, and the underworld might be completely destroyed. Loki was also terrified. He used Dustless as an example. Recently, he had felt the sharpness of Zanka no Tachi the most. The ugly charred blade could not be touched, or one would be burned alive. For a moment, he even forgot about the pain of losing his arm. Chapter 1368. The sharpness of Zanka no Tachi swept across the world. This was the oldest and most powerful Zanka no Tachi. Its temperature was enough to flatten the world. All the creatures in the underworld sensed that their bodies were evaporating rapidly. Even the so-called gods were no exception. They couldn't escape the curse of Zanka no Tachi. What's going on? Is this all because of that weapon? Loki's face twitched. To be honest, he didn't have the confidence to fight Dustless anymore. That's good stuff. If I had such a powerful weapon, even the infinite dragon god and the great red wouldn't be able to defeat me. Loki sobbed. His face was filled with greed. You can't even keep your life, and you still want Zanka no Tachi. You're right, the ignorant are fearless. Dustless's emotionless eyes looked at Loki. In his eyes, Loki was already a dead body. I'll take your weapon. That kind of weapon is only suitable for a god like me. In order to resist the pressure and impact of Zanka no Tachi, Loki's body was covered with dense magic arrays. He pounced on Dustless fiercely. You want to die so fast? Dustless shook his head. He waved Zanka no Tachi again, an array of hot sword energy whizzed out. Zanka no Tachi, north, ashes of heaven and earth. Loki's eyes were filled with excitement. He could already see Odin and the infinite dragon god trembling in fear when he swept across the world with Zanka no Tachi. Even when the blade slashed at him, he ignored it completely. With so many magic arrays protecting me, it shouldn't be a problem. Loki comforted himself. He set up a large number of defensive magic arrays on his body, and he was confident that he could temporarily resist the sharpness of Zanka no Tachi. However, Loki immediately regretted it in the next second. Boom boom boom. A violent explosion suddenly sounded. Zenka no Tachi's blade tore apart the magic arrays on Loki's body in an invincible manner. Deadly flames came into contact with Loki's body. Poof! Loki's remaining right arm was mercilessly chopped off. Even his shoulder was fatally injured. A large part of it was burned. Bang bang bang. Rocky, who had suffered a heavy blow, lost his balance and fell to the ground. Hee hee, Loki sneered uncharacteristically. I curse you, Anne. Don't be naive. Stretch out your neck and accept your punishment. Any attack of yours is just a joke to me. Dustless spoke in an indifferent tone. Although he was incomparably arrogant and didn't put a god in his eyes, no one dared to stand out and oppose him. They just wanted this farce to end quickly, otherwise all of them might be buried with Loki. Zen Flame Tachi, West, Broken Sun Prison Robe. The golden flames revolved around Dustless's body and did not disperse. Everything that came into contact with Dustless was vaporized by the high temperature of 1,500 degrees. In this state, Dustless was invincible, and all the attacks that came into contact with him were annihilated. Haha, that's all there is to it. No one has managed to kill me. Even though he had lost his arms, Loki still stood up and mocked Dustless. I am a god. In front of me, you are nothing. Dustless continued to move forward and murmured, you are still alive, and that is my mercy. The reason why I have kept you alive until now is to make an example out of those who want to harm Rias and Junai. This is what will happen to them. You will die with your limbs cut off. Dustless announced cruelly, and then darted in front of Loki and swung Zen Flame Tachi. Splat! Splat! Loki's legs were mercilessly cut off by Dustless, and he rolled on the ground in agony. Disappear, Loki. Looking at Loki who was in agony, Dustless decided to send him to heaven, and be a good person until the end. Sir, please wait a moment. Seeing that Dustless was about to kill the god of his own pantheon, Odin's old face suddenly felt embarrassed. If Loki was killed by Dustless like a dog, how could the gods of Norse mythology survive in the future? What's the matter? As long as it's not about letting Loki go, just say it. Dustless turned his head and glanced at Loki, labeling him as a must-kill. Ugh, Odin almost bit his tongue when he heard that, and the words that were about to come out of his mouth stopped abruptly. He looked at Dustless a little woodenly, and obviously wanted to say something to plead for Loki. If you are pleading for Loki, then I am sorry. I can understand why he wants to kill me, but the despicable people who plotted against my women must suffer my sky-burning fire. Dustless still insisted, and there was no room for negotiation. Arg, do you think I will thank you? Odin, you old bastard. At this moment, Loki's hysterical roar came, and he glared at Odin with fire in his eyes. If he did not insist on forming an alliance, none of this would have happened today. In the end, it was this old guy's fault for being reckless, and he had to admit that he was defeated by Dustless. After all, he was not strong enough, and he was really no match for Dustless's strength that could shatter mountains with a raise of his hand. Even now, you still insist on your point of view. There must be no cure, Loki. After sighing, Odin closed his eyes, implying that he acquiesced to Dustless killing Loki. Disappear, the so-called god. 96 of Tao Breaker, 1 blade cremation. The blade-shaped flame rose from the ground, engulfing Loki in one fell swoop and completely erased him. Chapter 1369. The scene fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at Dustless in fear and involuntarily took a few steps back. It was not that they were cowards, but this guy was just too brutal. He killed a god just like that. His swift and decisive means shocked everyone. Especially after Dustless showed his original appearance with Zenka no Tachi, everyone was afraid and in awe of him. Compared to Dustless, who was a superhuman with a cheat code, demons and gods were nothing. Let's end this here. Let's all get along in the future. Odin smiled, but it looked a little forced. Well, it was true. A god of the Norse mythology system was killed right in front of him. He was indeed embarrassed. However, although he was unhappy, Odin could only swallow it and endure it. Firstly, it was Loki's problem to begin with. Secondly, Dustless was not hostile to the gods of the Norse mythology system. On the contrary, Odin had heard that the relationship between Laufeyas and Dustless was barely okay. This was another relationship card. And the most important factor was that Odin had witnessed Dustless's godlike strength with his own eyes. He could not help but feel fear. It was as simple as beating up a child. I'm sorry, Lord Odin. I didn't expect this banquet to turn out like this. Syzax walked over with an apologetic look. Was he really wrong? Of course not. He was just trying to make Loki feel better. After all, a Norse god had just died. No need to care. Loki deserved it. Odin waved his hand. Syzax did not need to care about such a small matter. At the same time, he insisted, let's sign the alliance agreement soon. Everyone must work together to deal with the threat of Calamity Mass. Deal with Calamity Mass. Hearing this, Dustless looked at Odin with interest. These words were equivalent to going against him. After all, whether it was the infinite dragon god Orpheus or the Great Red, they were all on Dustless's side. Now, they were all in the same trench. Forget it, a great person will not hold a grudge against a petty person like you. I won't lower myself to your level. Dustless did not say anything. He walked leisurely toward Rias and the others, ignoring the prying eyes of others. The next morning. After yesterday's battle, Dustless, who was deeply fatigued, was in a deep sleep. He didn't even notice the person who had ambushed him. When he woke up the next morning, the big bed was already filled with people. What's going on? We've been ambushed. Dustless was speechless when he opened his eyes. He realized that his left and right hands were held tightly by Aisha and Rias. His left and right legs were also being measured by Genova and Wisteria Rena. And the worst thing was that he found a beautiful body sleeping on his stomach. This is Junai. What do you want? Are we mobilizing the entire club? Dustless could not help but smile bitterly when he saw this. His being taken apart was not the worst part. He suddenly realized that his back was aching, and there were all kinds of lip marks all over his body. What the F***ck? If I knew you guys were going to ambush me, I wouldn't have fallen asleep. I didn't even feel anything. What a loss. Dustless grumbled in annoyance. At the same time, he gently shook off the women's hold. Looking at the marks all over his body, he did not know whether to laugh or cry. He could only go take a bath again. Early in the morning, in the hot spring of the Gimli family, Dustless thought that there would be no one. However, he did not expect to see 3 vague silhouettes in the steam. Forget it. I'll come back later. Dustless frowned and decided to leave. Era. We're not tigresses. As the son-in-law of the Gimli family, don't you think that you have to communicate with Rias' sister-in-law and her mother, Lord Chin? A seductive and teasing tone came from the steam. Dustless could already see a perfect body. Sorry, Auntie. Why are you here? Wu Chen's slightly bored face lit up. He found an unexpected figure, and his pupils widened a little in an instant. Her silver hair was like a white ribbon. It was very soft. Even though she had been soaked in the hot spring water, her perfect silhouette was impeccable. Her tall nose made her look even cuter. Especially her face, which was still blushing, looked very shy and attractive. One could not help but want to take a bite and taste her fragrance. This guy changes women too quickly. He used to look at me with those perverted eyes. Now, he ignores my existence and treats me like air, Rias's mother, Vainilana, said with a sour tone. She turned to look at the silver-haired girl in front of her. Her eyes were filled with jealousy. The change is hard to accept. Gulifia nodded in agreement. It didn't make sense for a peerless demon to ignore her and Vainilana, who were barely covered in clothes. Ahem. Losvase, I didn't expect to see you here. What a coincidence. Dustless calmly sat beside Losvase. The girl's fragrance immediately entered his nose. I was a bit tired yesterday, so I came to relax. Who knew you would come too? Losvase blushed. She wanted to put some distance between her and Dustless. But when she remembered the mission left by their main god, Odin, she could not help but have a headache. It was very troublesome. Losvase finally compromised with the mission. Not only did she not put some distance between her and Dustless, she even purposely moved closer. Because they were so close, they could feel each other's body temperature and the touch of their skin. It could not be helped. They were too close. This unusual action made Gulifia and Vainilana frown. A hint of displeasure flashed in their eyes. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.